stream will begin at, probably 12, maybe sooner. I don't know. I'm kind of not feeling too great, but I said I was going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm a person of my word. So, again, the stream will begin around noon. I am going to go ahead and get the stream is going to be starting. Screen up. Bam! There we go. Chat is open. So, chat will be open. We are going to be here. I'm going to grab a phone, not phone, a fan, so that my computer doesn't explode because I'm currently upstairs. So give me a moment.
This guy's
Alright, the stream will begin at noon. I just decided to open the chat open early, just in case. Here to chill and hang out until the start of the stream, because I need to de-stress, because planning this out, I've been, like, anxious as fuck. Sorry about the language, but the current time is 11:08. I was originally planning on getting the chat open at 11:30, but then I realized, no, I needed to de-stress. I needed to make sure that everything was here, do a little bit of pre-game warm-up, you know. Listen to some of my favorite songs that I've written. Just trying to get back in the vibe that I need to be in order to be able to do this, because I'm going to be doing a segment that is basically just me being so blatantly honest about how rigged the system is against indie artists. And then after all of that, I'm basically going to be, like, taking a step back, being like, okay, and this isn't just affecting me, this is also affecting all of the people in the record industry, and we're going to be reacting to some content that I found that I didn't finish. I intentionally didn't watch it when I found it, because it was like, you know what, this actually does make sense. I'm just gonna, like, back off. We're gonna watch it together. It talks about what happens to the people who sign major record industry contracts. Alright, so can you hear me better than the music now? Deep in Jeronis's mind are realms beyond and battles of this kind. The theater is open, so please all enjoy the show. Or don't, for that we all know.
Live TV from 85 plus channels with local sports and news. YouTube TV. Try it free.
Okay, alright. So, I'll go ahead and turn the music back up a bit. So how are you today, Aku no Neko? Gonna go ahead and send a friend request, by the way. Try to do that for all the people that I notice come into stream, just in case, you know. Alright, alright. In Jeronis's mind, arrows wrapped and battles of the sky. The theater is open, so please all enjoy the show. Oh, don't fall. Alright, so I have decided I am going to share not just my YouTube data, but also my data from TuneCore, which is where I'm going to be like, yeah, no, this game is literally rigged. But also my data from Twitch, so people can see, like, hey, this is where I'm at, this is how I'm progressing, this is what my progress is towards each of these individual goals. And I'm going to kind of do the same thing with YouTube, even though they've only got that one major goal that you can actually aim for. Come here, girl. Yeah, my puppy kind of gave me a scare last night. Like, she woke up like coughing, and I'm like, oh. But then turns out she didn't wake up coughing. She had gotten up to get a little bit of food out of her doggy dish and was choking a bit. So, but she's fine now. Like happy tail wagging stuffs. Okay, alright. Okay, gotcha. Hey, no worries on whether or not you'll be able to stay for the full stream, cause, it's, it's been a, it's been a week, but if you're willing to, you can always come back. I am going to be having it up on my Twitch channel and on my YouTube, which I have a vanity URL for, so I'll just go ahead and put that in chat now. It'll be up on YouTube long term. On Twitch, I don't know what my my channel's refresh rate is on videos where it just dumps content, because I'm not partner, so it doesn't hold everything long term. But I don't know what my cutoff point is, because everyone's is a little bit different, like within hours. Sounds are calling by focus. That leaves me to explain away the truth that I learned upon the day my faith threw me so far away. Got to burn up beneath if you fail to follow through. Near gold, if you waste away before break of day. There it is. Okay. So there's my vendor URL for YouTube. If you want to watch it after you wind up getting to a spot to stop for work, feel free. Sorry, my dog got into my mom's yarn bag. Hang on. Here, let me. Come here. Good girl. If this you deny, might as well try, never truly to serve. You wish to drink, sense of time away, I wouldn't dare to stop you. If you wish to live, you must be great off, or else you'll never return. Here in hell you'll burn. You once refused to be not what you truly be. It's been like that throughout history, so let's welcome to thee. Drink to your health, alcohol, we can tell why would a god in their right mind walk into this bar? He stood from hell, fuck the realms was the motto of your true soul. Your truth has been done on the shelf, God, and not only how thou be true who you are. Here is our belief, not vague. Remember who you are, for your true name is Plague. You're still alive, looks like you survived. You've been to my life, you'll go so far. Get the fuck out of my bar. Sorry, I really like my own music, can you tell? I'm gonna be skipping over tracks that are more insensitive, given the Given that the death toll has more than tripled since when I wrote Hey Plague Doctors, I'm going to be skipping over that one. Alright. Alright. Bar. Get the fuck out of my bar. It's basically the bar owner kicked the embodiment of plague out of his bar at the very end of the song.
Behold the new descent. Unlock down some descent.
Yeah.
Behold the God descent.
It's a
Descent
part
is
of my
descent.
song series. Almost all my songs are.
Ham.
The Multisphere Project's alternative title is The Multiverse and the Bar in Hell, which is where almost all worlds wind up sending their not necessarily damned in order for them to get used to the idea that they're in hell before they're actually sent to where they need to go in the afterlife. Personal headcanon, not an actual thing in D&D or the real world, but it's my own personal headcanon for where my D&D characters entertain the souls of those waiting to go wherever they need to go, and whatever gods may or may not have taken a break. This song is called Wear a Goddamn Mask, and it's basically two gods flexing by like doing a traditional like descend from heaven with angels announcing their arrival. But they're doing it just so they can say, wear a goddamn mask. I don't want people to die. It's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and tell my Discord friends that I'm moving up the timetable because I'm starting to calm down way sooner than I thought I would. Jeez. Okay. Which one was next? Oh, Lunch Break of the Five Horsemen. Nice. Nice. Okay. So far so good. My stream hasn't completely gone down. You heard barn, but otherwise you had heard barn, but you're otherwise occupied. Ah, that's okay. I'm updating my Discord posts right now. Lunch break of the Five Horsemen is a song I wrote that basically reintroduces the concepts of the Four Horsemen, except there are five of them because Plague was retired and Pollution had been like doing his job for him, but he's back because the end of that song a couple songs back. Move the timetable up. Content starts at 11:30. Chat is already open. Do you know what we're having fun? The cheers up here say, simple, always overworked and underpaid, we're no exception. Think them then done. The lunch break off. The Five Horsemen is on its own now. There was one still too, but get done somehow. By the way, it was nice to meet you. Jeez. I tried to make that so cute at the very end, and it's like, nope, that just was so out of place. Going back through it, I'm gonna have to do a lot of work when I do the remasters on these songs, like, no joke. My production speed does not allow for retrospection or introspection, or heck, even, yeah, like, it's... Oh, hi, I've got a second viewer! Hi, second viewer! Nice! Hi. So... Yeah, my production speed normally doesn't allow me to think, for lack of a better way to put it. Alright, gonna play some stuff from the new album, yeah? Got another 5 minutes, so let's go ahead and make this a little over a 5-minute song. Let's do the... Nah, let's do Magic of Time. Let's do the title track from the new album. There we are. I'm letting everybody I told about the stream know. Self-promo. After comes after before is what they have said. Ladies, gentlemen, everyone in between, we did move up the timetables. So at the end of Magic of Time, I will be starting a whole half hour earlier than I was originally planning. So. And not today as Amadeus. Only so much I can do. My name and truth to pursue. So turn back the time where I must, so that I can learn to trust. All right. In about 40 seconds, we'll be getting started. All right. Ladies, gentlemen, everyone in between, everyone exempt or floating violently between the extremes, welcome, welcome. Coming to you live from Southern Illinois. Also, clear on the opposite end of the universe, Jeronis Leror. Hey everyone. Hi. So, we're going to be talking today about some things that are kind of near and dear to my heart, mostly. Um, I'm going to be trying to get this fixed. I thought I had it, but for some reason it isn't showing. There we go. There we go. So, let's go ahead and get this started. We're going to be talking about analytics. We are going to start with the I need to sign out as quickly as I can as soon as we're done so it doesn't increase the risk of somebody figuring out exactly how to sign in. So let me go ahead and show you. First, I'm going to go ahead and show off. I've got 10 releases up and I'm working on my quote-unquote 11th. What it really is I have 5 albums. Let's go ahead and get that pulled up. I want to show you my full release section. There we go. So I've got 5 albums, not counting this one down at the bottom, which is one I had to re-release. So 1, 2, 3, 4, counting the re-release. 5, that's in the process of distributing now. And I've got 2, 4, 6, 7 singles. So they're working on getting everything updated and stuff, but we're going to go ahead and start working on the analytics to show you exactly how, despite having exactly 56, hang on, it's 56 plus 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, yep, 62 original songs out. I am still making a lot less than you would possibly imagine from that music outside of commissions, which I have done commissions. I do commissions. I just don't advertise how or where I do them for very, very, very specific reasons. So let's go ahead and get started on the analytics talk, yeah? Let's go ahead and go into video monetization. So what this is YouTube auto detects whether or not something violates their CID. If it doesn't, it will give you the option to monetize it if it is a song. And as you can see, I have a few unmonetizable songs. I'm going to go ahead and get them to start analyzing the singles, of course, but as you can see, Slow Waking Hell and Hell Waking Slow, it knows that I am using samples. It knows I'm using loops, and because it's able to tell, it's uneligible for monetization. So 2 of my songs there. The entirety of my holiday album was composed using loop packs. Like, I actually did want to do some of my holiday album by hand, but when I realized I was burning out, I had to do something because I had promised a release. All the lyrics are still mine. I still own the copyright on the lyrics. If someone wanted to reuse those lyrics in a completely different composition, that's great. But anything to do with my original holiday album, non-monetizable. So any enterprising musicians out there want to use my holiday album as background music, perfectly fine to do so. Everything from the holidays song, why we say happy holidays, all the way down to Mazasur. But as you can see, that is how YouTube's system works. Facebook has a completely different algorithm that determines whether or not it's monetizable or not, and that's the combination of voice with music. So their algorithm is a little bit kinder. But let's get into the money and reports. Yes, let's get to our music sales. So my music sales are currently at a grand total of lifetime. I've made 26, 12, 42, 7. So that's, let's see, that's 38, 80. I have made a total of 89 cents. Total of 89 cents in the year that I've been doing this, not counting commissions and not counting Bandcamp sales. I just remembered we should probably look at my Bandcamp sales while we're at it, but I realized I'm not signed into Bandcamp on any browser here, so like I have to completely switch which partition I'm on to look at it. Neither here nor there. I should have done that during setup. Didn't think. My bad. So, 89 cents. How is that broken down by song? Click. Come on. Load, load, load. I know, I'm running you on Windows partition. I know you don't like it, MacBook. Shush. Alright, so let's go ahead and show the results. I have made, off of any one song, through the traditional method, 9 cents. That is the most I've made. There are tons of songs. Almost my entire, well, my entire LP, the 20 track, the good melodies are already gone. Almost all of it, no money coming in, even with plays. Like, almost all of my library, no money coming in. Why is that? Well, it depends on where it plays, and that's where I'm going to show you by stores. Most of my plays are on YouTube, right? Some of my plays are on Apple Music. I get maybe 2 plays a month off of Spotify. And Amazon Unlimited. Oh, wait, hold on. This isn't Lifetime. This is. Oh. Wait, no. Yep, that's Lifetime. Good. Phew. For a second, I was worried there. I wasn't looking at all the data. That would have changed my script entirely. Okay. But as you can see, like, I get almost nothing from YouTube Music. Almost nothing from Amazon Cloud. Almost nothing from Boomplay. Nothing from TikTok. It is negligible enough they don't pay me for it. My biggest month was December of 2020 when I got 42 cents. I haven't gotten the report in for January yet, but not January, for February. Jeez, lack of sleep. Anywho, that is the music sales. Now, sound recording revenue is a completely different ballgame. I earned 158 off of my first album. 158. That's the one I wound up having to re-release. That was over the course of the whole month. Like, almost all of the money I made from YouTube was off of my debut album. Which either says something about the quality of my music or says something about my fan base. I don't know. Either way, not great. I need to work on that. At least I know. My daily trend report And I'm going to go ahead and maximize the view. The trend reports for iTunes and Amazon MP3 downloads. I have not gotten any downloads on Amazon Music or iTunes. Spotify, as you can see, I had no listeners from, I think that's January 20th all the way to February 24th. No listens on Spotify. Then this is everything ranked. Like my biggest song is the COVID-19 song. Like not even joking. Despite the fact it's outdated as fuck now. Um yeah, that summarizes that up. So something you may have noticed. Wait, you're not making money off of your music? What? Okay, so let me explain to you how music works in general. You have copyright. You earn royalties based on that copyright. Those royalties are fractions of a cent per play. Less than a cent. Why is that? Well, when the royalty rate was set, it was back at the start of the recording era. Like, it was easier for record labels to make money off of you. Way easier. Without you going bankrupt. But then the digital millennium hit. The royalty rates for online streaming providers and downloads are effectively the same as if it were played on an actual radio. So, how does that change things? Well, given that digital ownership and digital listening can be done on any platform, on any device, it decreases record sales. We're going to get to that. We're not anywhere near talking about that yet. Let's go ahead and look at my Twitch channel stuffs, right? So from February 20th to March 21st, so the 30-day period that I'm currently operating in, I've had 7 unique chatters, an average of less than 2/10 of a view, and I've had 3 follows. I've streamed for 52 hours this month. Yes, 52 hours. That's a thing. That's going to keep happening if I can pull myself out of this rut. I have an average of 40 viewers a month. Stream summary. The average duration is 39 minutes. The max number of viewers is 1. I had none my last stream. Unique viewers, 4. So I've had 4 people viewing this over the course of the day. If anyone wants to actually comment before they flicker in and out of existence again, I'd appreciate that. Hi. Where was I? Right. A whole bunch of stuff here, right? This is average viewers, live views, new followers, chat messages, clips created. Usually I would have a higher average than this, but over the last month, I've noticed that instead of 2 people, I got maybe 1, maybe 3 for the whole stream. Which gets me to the achievements section. Yay, I've completed It Begins! What achievement do I complete next? Well, I'm aiming to achieve build a community, reach 50 followers, get 5 people chatting at the same time. I've gotten up to 3. From there, the path to partner. I need 75 viewers. I have streamed 52 hours in the last month and gotten an average of 0.14 viewers in those 52.4 hours. So there is that. Path to affiliate. That's a little bit easier. If I can get an average of 3 viewers, I can possibly get there, but I also have to reach 50 followers at that point. So even on my bad days, I have to be having a good day. But yeah, those are my achievements. I just realized I probably should have shown you the TuneCore stuff. But my community is so inactive that I'm the only person who shows up in the community tab. It's that bad. All right, let's go ahead and go back to TuneCore. Hopefully I don't have to sign back in because there is something I have to show you, and it has to do... Yes, okay, I'm still signed in. It has to do with how the record industry fleeces indie artists. So, they have a rewards program now. They didn't have it before. Like, less than a year ago, this did not exist. Where it's based on what you have done, you earn points, and you can earn discounts on distribution and stuff like that. But at the higher tiers, like breakout artists, you have to either have earned $1,000 or more, which is absolutely impossible in today's market, or you have to distribute 25 or more releases. As you saw earlier, I am at 10. But let's go ahead and walk through what you get at the higher tier stuffs. You get your hit social media hit list. It's where you get help working on your social media. Like, you get advice on what you need to do in order to keep going. All about Spotify. You learn about Spotify. These are classes that they give you to take. The VIP services store awareness. TuneCore will actively promote my stuff at that point, right? Artist submission portal. It makes it easier for me to submit stuff for consideration. Brand ambassador, I get merch designed by someone other than me. Yeah, like all that. But the problem is, you have to have 25 releases. I have 10, but let me show you the cost. Let's go ahead and, with the exception of discounts, which I have used heavily, a single costs $10 to distribute. That's anywhere from 1 to 3 tracks. Anywhere from 2 to 10 tracks, however, could also be 30. See the issue here? Right. So the album can be up to, I think it's 27 tracks. And for certain platforms, you have to have everything on the album less than 72 minutes. So 1 hour of music for $30 to distribute all at once, or maybe 5 minutes for 10. So it is cheaper to go with albums, but then you don't build hype like at all. Because weirdly, and this is where I'm going to dig in, YouTube doesn't help people. Neither does Twitch. Neither does Facebook. They've left us all high and dry. Okay? So this has nothing to do with me being petty. This has everything to do with even the means of production, and even owning the means of production for this, they have made it where if you own the means of production for music, you're fucked. Like, majorly fucked. So yeah, there's that. You wind up having to spend, on average, let me go ahead and pull up a calculator real quick so I can basically give you the exact amount. With the exception of discounts, you have to spend... Oh, hi! My alert box just went off. Hang on. Hi. Oh, that was me. I shared something. Flickr. So the flickers, are you having technical difficulties receiving the stream? Because I just checked on Facebook and it seems to be good. The Oh, and thank you for the follow. I just noticed. So thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Akano Neko. So oh, just responded to a comment I made. Oh, okay, got it. Let's go ahead and see the average real quick. So for 25 releases separate as singles, yeah, it would be 225. $225 in order to get where you need to go. Then there are those people like me who write music on the reg like fast, like really freaking fast. And we release via albums. If you solely release using albums, it's $30 times 25 releases. That's 750 bucks. Bare minimum, you have to invest a quarter to sorry, anywhere from a quarter thousand to a full thousand into your music in order to genuinely get any help doing anything. This has, again, nothing to do with me being petty, has everything to do with me trying to get advice and aid where I actually need it. And there we go. The lip sync is now working. No more Uncanny Valley. No, no. And now Avatar Me has disappeared. Ah! Technical gremlins. Summon me back into the box. Got the keyboard, got the mouse, got the. There we go. We're back. Okay. Whew. All right. So, with that, basically, this is the what you have to do just on the off chance you want help from someone else as an independent artist who has no band, who has no friends, whose family doesn't support them. I'm referring to myself. So, like, my parents let me live with them. That is their support. They refuse to buy my music, they refuse to buy my merch, they refuse to even admit that I anything because as a part of my brand, I'm honest with people about things. And that includes my sexuality, that includes my gender identity. My brand of being honest conflicts heavily with their religious beliefs. I love them. They are good people. That said, when it comes to supporting my music, nope. I got no help from family. I've got no help from most of my friends because most of my friends are also trying to be entrepreneurs and failing just as hard as I am. Pandemic did not help anything. But yeah, money. Money, 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 money. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and calculate out exactly how much I've spent so far, not counting discounts, because I can't keep track of what I got discounts on when. Give me a sec. So, 30 times the number of albums. And like this is just on the music, not on any of the branding, not on anything else, just the music. 30 times 5. I have released 5 full albums. I had to re-release album 1. That means 6. Then I have to add to that $10 per single, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Okay. I have spent see. 30 times 6 plus, that's 70? Yeah. Okay. I have spent $250. So I am on track to have given them all of their money's worth. But I did that and have distributed 56 original songs, which means despite having so many original songs out, I'm not getting the support someone with that many original songs out normally would receive. You see the issue. We're going to go ahead and touch on my YouTube analytics next, but let's go ahead and get there. Oh, oh, hi. Another another flicker? Oh, hi. Hello. Hello, Honey Nut Queen. Nice to meet you. Um, thank you. Um, let's go ahead and look at that, right? So, back to this. Your channel. Customize. All right. Let us dive in, shall we? So, YouTube. Honestly, where I have the most success. Let me go ahead and show you how much money I actually make directly off of YouTube that has nothing to do with my music. Money I make that has nothing to do with my music, absolutely fucking nothing. I'm not even kidding. The only reason this video is going to wind up even remotely monetized is because I played monetized songs during the intro. I'm not even joking, and it will only be the sections that have those songs. So, yikes. I have 47 public watch hours. I need more than 100 times that, and I need 10 times the number of subscribers in order to make money on my gaming content. It's ridiculous. But you may have noticed, and I'll go ahead and pull it back up so you can see it, there will be a change to how analytics handles me, just a little bit. It will be a slight change, not anything fancy or anything, but as you can see right here, ding! I am officially now a YouTube artist. TuneCore did that for me. I am grateful. That being said, it took them forever, so I'm glad TuneCore got that taken care of. I am now acknowledged by YouTube as a musician. So that will change my analytics. That will change how often my music gets suggested. However, it will not increase the likelihood of my music actually being viewed because I do not have promotional videos like other Vocaloid and vocal synth producers. So this, right now, what we're going to be talking about is going to be relatively the same regardless until I start getting animated PVs made. So I need to ask. I know someone offered to help, but I can't remember who. But I need to ask. So in the last month, as you can see here, like the most views I've gotten was on February 28th, and that was 18 views. And even like within the last week, the most views I got, 9. Like that's yesterday. Average watch time, hours-wise, less than an hour, like a tenth of an hour. Unique viewers, the closest update they currently have for me is 2 days ago, and I had 7 viewers, right? That's on viewers. My most viewed video was Do You Love Me, featuring my boyfriend and I. Beyond that, it was my friend, Transheart Games, go check her out by the way, reacting to Has Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss. Below that, one of my personal faves from my Completely Originals No Collab collection, which I've got a lot of. But yeah, like, pretty decent spread of the type of content I do from a wider range of time. So obviously it has nothing to do with that. It probably has something to do with the fact I don't normally use thumbnails. Hi, YouTube. I used a thumbnail for you. Please recommend this stream after we're done to people who want to understand exactly how the music industry fucks people over and how you fuck people over. Thank you. Sorry. They just slammed the demonetize button right there. Right. Impressions. 695 impressions on that day. Meaning I showed up in people's feeds 695 times on February 28th. And then nothing. Impressions to click-through rate, I'm at less than 2%, which is 31% down from what I normally have. My views are up 628% from last month. But as you can see, sort of like there's spikes and then there's downfalls. There are like occasional like little valleys here, a little bit, where viewership like doesn't really do much, but then there's March 17th. No views at all. That was less than 4 days ago. So, hi. Nice to meet you. Engagement. Like, less than 1 mostly, but the average is about 2.6 watch time hours. Nope, not average. Total. Okay, so total was 2.6, and that's almost 999% more than last month. Yeah, you know you're unpopular when you have a watch time of less than 3 hours, and that is 959% more than the previous month. You're growing. You're just starting out from Jack. Average view duration was 1 minute and 11 seconds, with March 11th being my highest day in the last month, with people watching exactly 5 minutes and 49 seconds of my content. Yay! Audience. My subscriber count. Put it in perspective. 90 days. Actually, let me show you the lifetime real quick, just so you understand. This is the lifetime of the channel having content. I had videos from as far back as 2014 on my channel. Right? There we go. 2012 was when I posted my first video. Most stuff got deleted. I had no subscribers for 2 years. Then right here, April 7th, is where they purged my account. I begged them to put it back up. They did. I got my first subscriber. Hang on. Sometime between June 5th and June 17th. I think it's, yep, June 13th. But as you can see, I have had loss after loss after loss after loss along here. Like, all those arrows pointing down were me losing 1, 2, 3, 7. Heck, even over the last year, I've had days where I've had a net loss of a subscriber. Like here. I had 2 subscribers lost on February 28th. And a net loss of 1. Because these are net losses. These aren't, like, total losses. Like, I could have had 3 people subscribe, but 4 people unsubscribing registers as a -1. I've had, in the last 7 days, 7 new subscribers. Thank you all for that, by the way. But in the last month, there we go. I lost 3, gained 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So basically, I gained enough to make up for, but subscriber count doesn't affect this. Wait, what, you may ask? Well, here's the thing. Almost none of this actually affects whether or not I show up in searches. You don't believe me? Okay, let me go ahead and show you something. This, right here, this is one of the only two things that the algorithm actually looks at now. It's the reason why there's an increase in right-wing and alt-right content and fascist content and Nazi content over the last month or two. Impressions through click-through rate on that content is higher. I'm a left-winger. I'm completely the opposite. And my click-through rate is abysmal right now. But this is one of the two things that people actually look at when deciding whether or not a channel should be promoted. It's less the algorithm now, and the algorithm suggests what channel. But once it gets past the algorithm spitting out whatever the best videos are per channel, this is one of the things, impressions through click-through rate. I get about 3,000 impressions a month. I get less than 2% of those people actually clicking on the video, let alone the other thing they look at, watch time hours, which I actually do get, weirdly, 2.6 watch time hours, but the average view duration is 1 minute and 11 seconds. These three things are what YouTube actually looks at, which is part of the reason I used a thumbnail today. YouTube Senpai, please recommend. But yes, that is more or less what the fuck is going on. Oh, hi, Jason. Hi. I didn't even see there. Hang on. Let me go ahead and friend request you. Yay. Hi. This has been a day. And yeah, people wonder. YouTube wonders why we don't trust them. Yeah, like botted channels are literally designed to make things a bit more difficult. Like YouTube themselves have actually recommended that I watch my own videos all the way through from start to finish in order to boost that rate. What the fuck? That is unethical as all fucking hell. Seriously, YouTube, what the fuck are you thinking? Which brings me to YouTube, Twitch, and all of them are not the only ones being unethical. We are going to go ahead and get started on taking a look, with ads, unfortunately, a little bit of the music industry. I've exposed myself, shown you, hey, I'm flat broke. No, I only make money off of commissions, and those aren't stable income, like, at all. So, no. Like, I made less than $3 from all revenue sources music related. Haven't made anything off my gaming content. So, now that I've shown you that, let's go ahead and react to this. Someone sent me this. I started watching it and I was like, you know, this is today's video. So let's go ahead and get started on that.
This guy's probably fought hundreds of thousands of other
Fuck you, HBO
Many
Max.
new artists
There we
sign
go.
record contracts with labels thinking they will become rich and famous, only to find out that they got trapped into an unfavorable record deal. In today's video, we're going to take a deep dive into the scummy music business, why some of your favorite musical artists are broke, and I'll be explaining exactly how the money flows throughout the music industry. How many of you have heard popular musicians complaining about their record deal? I have. How many times have you read news stories about drama with an artist and their record deal? Probably all the time. After this video, you're going to have an understanding of how the music business works and why you'll see so many artists desperately wanting out of their deals. I recently watched the documentary on Netflix detailing Lou Pearlman's management of the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. One of the most important segments of that documentary was the celebratory dinner that Lou hosted with members of NSYNC. At the time, NSYNC was selling millions of albums, had just completed a world tour, and were given checks of only $10,000. $500,000. Where were the millions of dollars going? Before we analyze where the money goes in the music industry, we must go back to the year 1999 and travel to the dorms of a Boston, Massachusetts university. Sean Fanning was a student at Northeastern University and made a decision that would forever change the music industry. While teaming up with Sean Parker, most notably played by Justin Timberlake in the movie The Social Network, these two created Napster. Napster was a peer-to-peer file sharing software that allowed users all around the world to share files, most notably music files. The software took off and accumulated over 26 million users.
Sorry, this is where I stopped earlier. So, here's where it's like, okay, yeah, Napster really ruined stuff for a lot of people. It does better now. You probably might want to mention that. If he doesn't mention that by the end of this series, that Napster has switched to now being the highest paying streaming source for music other than Tidal, which is the rich people one. Yeah, like there's even a tiered system on how you listen to your music. If you're rich, you can afford to have a Tidal membership that, yeah, it's just, what? Anywho,
music meant no more buying albums. The record labels were in trouble. They had just enjoyed a decade of large profits as CDs were flying off the shelves. Even average artists were making hit records. The industry saw a 5x growth of record sales in the 90s, but the industry was ripe for disruption. At the time, the record labels generally had an 85-15 split with their artists. For every record sold, the label would make 85% and the artist would take 15%. The labels were making billions due to the volume of sales. The labels were cool with the artists making money on tours and merchandising because they were already fed. But when record sales dropped, the labels needed to make their money. Enter the 360 contract. The labels wanted to make a profit on everything an artist did. If the labels weren't going to make their money on record sales, then they could make it on touring, merchandising, personal appearance income, or publishing income. Here's a breakdown of how major record companies invest in a new artist thanks to IFP.
Alright, so let's go ahead and break this down. So first, they get interest from the cash advance, which is all the record deals really are. They are payday loans, and I think he's going to get to that. But then there's what they earn from the recording, then what they earn from the music production, tour support, marketing, and promotion. That bottom number is how much the artist owes the label at the end of a $2 million contract, or a $500,000 contract, basically anywhere in that range. They expect to make all this money that they invested into you, plus the interest, which is that top line, back. That is how the record industry works. It is not about getting people promoted. It's not about making them popular, other than to make them popular enough to basically eat dirt when they get handed next to nothing. Welcome to the music industry, folks. Just off of this chart alone, I can explain to you everything that goes wrong. They sign you for anywhere from $500,000 to $2 million. Then, they expect they will make anywhere from $50,000 to $350,000 back in interest. On top of that, they expect that you pay back anywhere from $150,000 to $500,000 for recording fees, which quite frankly isn't all that expensive. Cough, hi, music producer. I'm producing music at a rate way faster than they ever can in studio, and I also am cheap. Video production, which is expensive, they charge $50,000 per music video. Like, seriously, get animators, PVs, independent artists. It is easier than ever in this day and age to get animated PVs commissioned for cheap. But no, they want to invest $50,000 into a music video. Okay, fine. Touring. Someone like me, a Vocaloid producer, cannot produce. We cannot produce anything from tours. We cannot produce tour revenue. Anything from tour revenue. Our marketing and promotion, which they invest anywhere from $200,000 to $700,000 on, well, we get even less than nothing long term from our marketing and promotions. Those two numbers, tour support and marketing and promotions, jack fucking squat. In other words, I would be on the hook for all of that. On top of all of this, if I were to ever sign a record deal. I am a Vocaloid and vocal synth producer. We have way more to lose by taking a record deal than anyone else in the industry. Anywho, let's get back to him.
.org. Record companies will give what is called an advance to artists. This money is given to the artist so that they can pay all personal expenses during the making of the album.
I was happy just getting some answers. I ain't even know what a record advance was.
They can pay rent, make their car payment, or take drugs for a boost in creativity. The purpose of the advance is to allow the artist to only worry about finishing the album. There are a lot of expenses that go into making an artist pop. This breakdown is $500,000 to $2 million of expenses before the artist even makes any money. The reason why the title of this video implies that your favorite artists are broke is because these expenses are called recoupable expenses. Every contract is going to be different, and how much is recoupable is going to be different from artist to artist. This is money that the record label invests in the artist. It's not exactly an investment though, because the artist actually owes this money back to the label.
Ding, ding, ding! He got it right. He got it right. I was hoping he got it right. Yes! He nailed it 100%.
Making it recoupable money for the label. A lot of these artists you may follow that grow a big social media following quickly, have expensive cars, rent large homes, own expensive jewelry, may actually be no better off than you or me. Why? Because all the money that goes into creating the star must be paid back. Remember how I said that record labels typically have an 85-15 split with record sales? Let's say I'm a new artist and the record company invests $500,000 into my brand, my image, building my social media accounts, and my advance fees. They're trying to create a star. Here's where the catch comes in. They eat first, so they keep their 85% off the top. If I sell 100,000 records and the label makes $10 a record, then I generated $1 million in revenue. The record company makes their $850,000 and I take home $150,000. But my recoupables were $500,000. Now I'm in debt to the label. That's right, I sold $1 million worth of records and I'm in debt to the label. I still owe them the remaining $350,000. I guess I'll just tour and get a sponsorship deal, right? Remember when I mentioned the 360 deal? Yeah, the record label has their hands in everything I do. Using this temple from digitalmusicnews.com, who acquired it from
Ding, 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 ding. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. In addition to that previous chart, there is a certain amount of those expenses, quote unquote, that they are self-investing. Yeah. Okay, let me explain. It sounds crazy because it is. They are basically investing in you by investing in themselves and then charging you for it. For some of the stuff relating to touring and production of ringtones and managing of artist sites, endorsement deals. 25% of any other income from the entertainment business, including appearances on TV, theater, book and publishing, and etc. Because the contract basically makes you the slave of the label. Even the relatively indie labels that have contracts, if they sign you to a contract, usually has the appearance fees. You have to pay to promote yourself. And they make the money after they pay to promote you and then pocket the expenses again. Because usually they also have ties to one or more major media outlets. It's like fuck? This is like RICO levels of corruption, right? Like this is monopoly crime. No, it's not monopoly crime. Oh, well, it's like mob crime. Well, yeah, but not exactly. It's the reason they get away with it. 'Cause for music, and music production in particular, it is worse than anything the mob has ever done, right? There's like an entire section of the music industry that is literally owned by organized crime. But past that, yeah, the laws basically protect music from being prosecuted for crime. Unless it's like the pirating of music, in which case they can go after literally any random Joe with a computer. They can. They don't, but they can. And they will use that as an excuse to arrest people they want to get on bigger stuff. Like it's like just there's like layers upon layers upon layers of corruption that the Justice Department doesn't want to touch when it comes to the music industry because fucking hell. Also, licensing and mechanical licensing and use licensing are a thing. So, oh boy. Let's continue. We're only 4 minutes into this first video, and he's already said all the stuff that I've said about this. I'm wondering where he goes from here.
Elliot Resnick, you can see how a typical contract would look. The label may keep 25 to 50% of gross revenue earned from various sources. You may sell 500,000 of merchandise. 250,000 goes to you, the other half to the label. But the label is going to charge you with the expenses to make and sell the merchandise, so your net is going to be much lower. You may sell $1 million of concert tickets, but only 750,000 goes to you. And then you have to pay your tour promoters, your tour manager, and any other people you have on staff. Don't forget, I still owe $350,000 to the label, so that gets paid first. Keep in mind that a lot of bands have multiple members, so the pot of gold for the band gets split multiple times. Oh yeah, these bands also have accountants, lawyers, producers, and taxes to pay. Here are some relatable, noteworthy stories. TLC filed for bankruptcy while selling millions of records. Ice Cube left NWA when he realized how little he was making. 30 Seconds to Mars was sued for $30 million for breach of contract from not making their third album. Tony Braxton filing for bankruptcy after selling millions of records. NSYNC and Backstreet Boys going to court, trying to get out of their record deal with Lou Pearlman. You're probably going to begin noticing how many artists complain about their record deal, complain about the music industry, and mention that it's like indentured servitude to be a major label artist after you've watched this video. Let's break down where the money goes. When an artist records a song, there are two different copyrights at play. Number one, the composition of the song. Many of your favorite artists don't write their own songs or produce all elements of the song. For hip hop and rap, you have the producers, featured guests, and ghostwriters.
I am technically both a producer and a ghostwriter. For the stuff I ghostwrite, I don't anything. Like, I intentionally, instead of getting like called out on it, I basically beg to not be put in the credits so that the artist might get that share. 'Cause it's bad. Like, I have actively asked to be purely commission based for anything I ghostwrite. 'Cause it's like, no. Cash up front. My rate is lower than everyone else in the industry. You want good lyrics? You want my specific style of composition? Fine. You're getting it. But the artist who's going to be using it has to make money. Enough to pay off a portion of what they owe the label. Like, I say that up front. There's a reason I do not advertise my commissions, because I know for a fact people don't give a rotten ass about me or about the artist.
For other genres, you may have background vocals, guitars, or lyrics composed by someone else. These people receive royalties. Number two, You have the final product, which is known as the masters. You will hear this term all the time when artists are complaining about their record deal. This is the final version of the song that is released to the public. You will hear artists all the time talk about owning their masters. Taylor Swift was recently in controversy with Scooter Braun surrounding ownership of her masters. If you don't own your masters, then the label owns them and can do whatever they like with them, and they will be the ones profiting off of your music for eternity. Here's a fun little example. These are the credits for Kanye West's album, The Life of Pablo. Everyone in the making of the album is receiving royalties for their contribution. An artist like Kanye makes plenty of money, but think of all of the second level or third level artists who you'd follow who probably have similar amounts of help in the production of the album. And remember, the label gets their cut from the top. All of those points are paid out from your advance and the budget provided to you by the label, which are recoupable. Now you're probably thinking, some of these artists have millions of streams on Spotify every day. They must be making millions of dollars. Here's Billy Corgan, lead singer of Smashing Pumpkins on Joe Rogan.
Look no further than the deals that the record labels cut with the streaming services. They got into ownership equity deals with the streaming services. In an arrangement for them to have an equity position, they agreed to very low rates for the artist's music.
Yeah. Like, to the point, in order to get any help from TuneCore, without interacting with them as a label, because technically they are a label, in order to get any help with them, you have to spend money into them in order for them to help you. Then, to top it off, they are not in anywhere near as an advantageous position as the major labels, because the major labels, surprise, under the table dealt with all the streaming services in order to get their music promoted first.
Bob Dylan's song on Spotify, Bob Dylan's not getting a lot of money for that. But as Spotify and the other streaming services raise up in their equity position, the labels benefit. So the labels pimped out their own artist to take a greater equity position in a rising business.
They basically devalued their artists and got equity in a company that is now worth more because the expenses are less, and the artists had no say in the matter. Here's a chart from digitalmusic.com sharing the payouts of streaming services and how many total streams are needed in order to earn the monthly minimum wage. Let's say your album has 10 songs and is listed on Spotify. You will need almost 34,000 complete album listens every single month in order to earn that $1,500 a month. And if your band has multiple members, then the number of streams needs to double or triple. And if you don't own the masters, then the money gets split even more. I've built up this argument for why musicians are getting screwed by the record companies, but let's think about this from the label's perspective. The record label generally takes an artist with very little fanfare and very little opportunity to become a star. It's statistically not going to happen for small artists to become superstars without the help of a major label. The labels invest large amounts of money, potentially millions of dollars, into artists with no guarantee of success. Labels generally have numerous artists on their roster and they're investing resources into all of them. I've seen some articles mention that only 5% of artists actually generate a profit. So the labels need to sign 360 deals hoping that the 5% that do succeed make enough money to cover all of the losses for the 95% of artists that don't make money. The labels are basically acting as a venture capital fund, invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into a lot of little companies hoping that one of them becomes a unicorn and you have a 20% share in a multiple billion-dollar exit. The artists who you will find complaining about the 360 deal generally are the largest artists because they're subsidizing profits for the artists who didn't profit. The three main major labels have their system already established. They have the recording studios, the ability to buy up the radio, the teams established to market you and give you the biggest probability of success. And in most cases, they give you the only opportunity of actually reaching superstar status. The artist may see it as being a slave to the record label, but from the label's perspective, that's just the price you pay for getting access to the billion-dollar machine. Record labels are in the business of making money. They want to control the artists as much as possible. It's a shady business full of corruption and conspiracies. If you're interested in this topic, check out the following stories: Britney Spears and her conservatorship, Lil Wayne suing his metaphorical father Birdman for $50 million, P. Diddy taking publishing credits on albums he didn't even produce, Jay-Z overtaking Dame Dash and becoming the CEO of Def Jam, and the illegal practice of payola and how record labels get around it. You can also research how a lot of artists sign multiple album deals and then the label doesn't promote them or release their albums, so they're a slave to the contract and unable to release any music to the public. This Rolling Stone article shares data from the nonprofit Music Industry Research Association detailing that the average musician is making around $25,000 a year. The real money is in running the labels and owning the music. This is why so many artists talk about the importance of owning your masters. That leaves all up-and-coming artists with a tough question. Do you go independent and be a starving musician for years in hopes that one day you'll earn enough to be a full-time musician? Or do you sign the 360 deal and give up all leverage for the entirety of your record deal? If you want to become a star and have your face all over the billboards in your favorite city, you may just have to sign a deal with the devil. This channel is about uncovering the truth behind a lot of what you see on social media. In the music business, where flashing lights, fame, and fortune are used to sell records, everything you see may not quite be as glamorous as it seems. Thanks so much for watching.
Okay, so he did a pretty good job of giving a summary of what the fuck. Wow. Like, applause, man. Applause, applause, applause. Oh. No. The radio, like, Jason. You're not exactly wrong, but you're not exactly right either. It is controlled by the labels. Flat. Like, flat. It is the labels that control the radio. Now, there are how many major labels that are hip-hop and rap? Oh. Okay. There are actually 4 major labels for hip-hop and rap. Pop, there are 10. The labels promote everything. Like, the labels promote even some neoclassical artists. Like, it is amazing. The only reason that certain people get heard more than others is because the radio stations have chosen genres they believe to be more successful. Like, in today's internet climate, yes, that's it. The radio stations, like that last comment, the rather in a better way of wording it, you only hear about popular music. Yes, except it's not about popular music you hear. On the radio, what you hear about is the popular music that has been quote-unquote popular for the longest time. Some stations focus on rap and hip-hop, but only on those. Some stations focus only on pop. Where I live, classic rock, like stuff from the frickin' 70s on back, is all that ever gets played. Or it's country music. No exceptions. There are no other channels from around here. There's a rebroadcast point for a Christian music stuff. Oh, no. No. Around here, Beyonce is banned by all the radio stations. They would rather play an underground country artist here than Beyonce. I'm not even fucking kidding. No. Not lucky. Not lucky at all. Because it means that other genres of music never get touched. I've written 3 country songs in the course of my career as a producer. Those country songs are banned from the country music stations around here because they are electronica country. Because it crosses over into another genre. Banned. Like, as I said, there's one rebroadcast point for Christian music. If you want, like, a microcosm of everything wrong with the music industry, look at the Christian music industry. It has nothing to do with being Christian. In fact, the Christian music industry is the worst. Like, they pay their artists the best, quote unquote, and they give their artists the best deals, quote unquote. But when it comes to how they treat their artists, actually, no. Like, Christian music, that entire subsection of the industry treats their artists worse than country music. And country music has a really bad reputation for one major reason, because they do everything they can to suppress artists of color. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, Christian music, the Christian music genre suppresses soul music, suppresses gospel music. You have to work harder to find gospel music because the Christian music industry doesn't promote gospel because it's a primarily non-white genre. Sorry, hydrating. My stomach's starting to get like it always does after my heart rate goes up. Okay. As I was saying. Yeah. That's exactly it. It is backwards. For like, if you want a microcosm of that, I'm actually going to go ahead and before we continue with this playlist, I am actually going to pull up State of Grace's video on the Christian music industry just so you can hear what the fuck is going on with that, because that is actually Grace Baldridge. I will go ahead and plug her real quick. I don't know her personally. It's parasocial how I know her. She liked a comment once. So it's like, ooh, senpai noticed me, and I'm like, yeah, like it's like, okay, but at the same time, Grace Baldridge, State of Grace, music. All right, here we are.
I feel empowered. I feel like the Dimitri Post diagnosis.
Okay, so she is one of the only openly LGBTQ indie Christian music artists, and as an indie artist not signed to a label, catapulted to the top of the Christian music charts. She managed to beat the Christian music industry at its own game as an indie artist. And she's a lesbian. So, listen to what she found out about the Christian music industry so you can understand why.
Once I was out of the Christian music industry, I realized like a lot of the damage that was done while I was in it.
Music has historically been one of the most prominent and accessible forms of worship in Christianity. Music is a unifier that can transcend culture, language, and distance. But what happens when that experience gets commodified? Enter the contemporary Christian music industry. Emerging as a genre in the late 60s, musician Larry Norman pioneered contemporary Christian music as we know it today.
All I'm really trying to say is why should the devil have all the good music?
He married his rock and roll style with a spiritual, Jesus-loving message, and brought Christian music mainstream. Kind of.
Oh, yeah, that is a thing. Like, with the exception of English-speaking artists singing songs that have occasional Spanish words in them, I do agree. The music industry is phobic against Spanish music. It's fucking insane. But continuing.
Since then, CCM has grown into a multi-million-dollar industry, encompassing nearly every musical style, but united in one lyrical theme: praising the Lord. Between publishing, radio play, licensing music to churches, and live shows, this multifaceted industry is not slowing down. Major artists continue to sell out arenas, headline major festivals, and even appear on The Ellen Show, which is a whole thing. I was raised on Christian music. I know pretty much all the words to every DC.
Pausing real quick to respond to that. You're not wrong. Like, not by a long shot. But here's the thing. Japanese music does get played. Korean music does get played. Just not on the radio, because the radio stations are focused on specific genres. And there are almost no radio stations for most genres. Because they're all owned by the same 20 different companies, right? And then there's the Christian music industry, again, which owns a significant portion of the radios and have control over how radio, everything. Right. No, I do agree they don't get played on radio. But the reason they don't get played on radio has nothing to do with the individual stations. It has to do with the companies that own them. Like, for example, I already mentioned my music, right? I've done 3 country songs. I submitted those 3 country songs, but because those 3 country songs are also technically electronica because of how they were composed, even though it's purely country and like even twang in voice, but no, banned. The radio station near the rock station near you used to play German rock music. Nice. Nice. I haven't actually ever heard German rock. Again, I'm from a region that exclusively plays classic. Oh, that is sad, Jason. Really sad. Like, and I hate when stations do that. Like, our local rock station used to like allow. Yeah, that tracks. Our local rock station used to allow local musicians to perform and local DJs to like occasionally like play their set list. Then they got bought by the nearest closest Cromwell Radio Group. And Cromwell Radio Group is the radio group responsible for, surprise, Rush Limbaugh. And basically all of the radio stations in my region are owned by that guy. Not Rush Limbaugh, but the guy who owned Rush Limbaugh's soul, for lack of a better way to put it. So yeah, no, radio around here, not conducive to anyone like me. But back to the Christian music industry for that little microcosm of bullshit.
Easy Talk songs, Switchfoot, Reliant K, Newsboys, not to brag. But as I got older, I realized that as a queer Christian, a lot of this music and the artists behind it would not be welcoming or affirming of who I am. So I set out to check in with the industry as it stands today. In an industry that's built on faith, with the product being a deeper connection to God through music, who is being championed?
Hey, just send me the name of the artist and I'll look it up.
We all know Nashville is Music City, but it's not just country music there.
After the stream, give it a listen.
Nashville is home to the majority of Christian artists, labels, and publishing companies. It's a uniquely positioned city at the intersection of Bible Belt ideology and entertainment sensibilities.
Okay.
My first stop is at the home of Lauren Deliri. Lauren and her sister performed in a Christian pop band called Love Collide. They were Juno award-winning touring artists with 3 studio albums. Recently, Lauren began deconstructing her faith and pinpointing the ways her beliefs weren't compatible with the pressures of the Christian music industry.
Being in the Christian music industry, obviously you have to adhere to purity culture, especially as girls. It's this weird fine line between like you have to obviously look cool, but also not be like revealing. I remember one time we were doing a show, I lifted my hands in worship and there's like a picture where you can see like this much of like my stomach.
How dare you?
Yeah, I know, right? I remember somebody tweeted at us and was just like,
right.
How can you like consider yourself
I'll give it a listen.
How can you even say you're worshiping whenever you're like making your brothers in Christ stumble with the skin that you're showing with midriff?
Is it true you can't like jump and dance on stage?
Yeah. People would complain about it. Men would.
Right.
And they would say it was too sexual. One of our singles, I Don't Want It. The music video for it, we had like paint dripping.
Yeah.
And there's one point where I'm singing and so there's like paint dripping down my face. And we got complaints that it looked like semen.
Just out of curiosity, were these people, have we confirmed that they are aware of what semen? Just would be an interesting follow-up, because as far as I know, if it is hot pink, then you should see a doctor.
It's just wild to me, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that
like,
part's
to
that
me,
is
the
kind of funny.
modern Christian message right now is like, we are nothing.
Yeah, no kidding.
Putting ourselves down so
But,
much and looking at a holy God, like
we'll
it's
get more to
all
that
about this, like,
here in a bit.
huge gap.
While worship music can feel incredibly cathartic, the content of most popular songs is nonspecific and tends to rely heavily on generic formulas and a lot of times water metaphors. So Lauren and I gave ourselves a challenge.
I think that we should write an I Am the Worm worship song. Oh, but I am worm. Sort of as an example of the cadence of Christian music that is easy to match. Yeah. Let's see if we can do it in 10 minutes. Something like, glory, you are not the...
Okay, that actually is interesting, because I am not predominantly a rap artist or a producer. I do ghost write some lyrics for rap, but I don't actually like produce it. So if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and, like, it is another topic, but today is about like airing our grievances with the music industry. So let's, if you feel comfortable sharing, feel free. The reason is because the genres actually originated with POC or Latin people. The reason for that happening, where you hear more promotion about that, is because historically, the music industry didn't allow artists of color to claim the genres they originated. Country music, when it started, was originally an offshoot, a primarily black offshoot of rhythm music. Like, people want to think that country music was always white. No. No. The first country artists were all black. But in order to make a living, they wound up having to sell off the rights to their songs to people like Elvis, people like, heck, even Willie Nelson did it. He's apologized for that. The reason why you've got so many people trying to keep white rappers out has nothing to do with the fact that the rappers are white. It has to do with the fact that historically, if black people allowed people to take over a genre, people start forgetting the genre ever had people of color in it to begin with. It's the reason why gospel music isn't allowed in the Christian music industry. It's the reason why black artists wind up getting accused of doing things that are perfectly normal and getting kicked out of the country music industry, getting their songs pulled off the charts the minute the accusations are made. I'm being very specific here. Blake Shelton, if you're listening, hi, I see you. You really shouldn't have tried to get someone's song pulled because they use autotune, because you use autotune on everything. All the way back as early as Old Red. I am sorry. I can hear it. I am a digital age producer. I can catch this shit. But country music started out as an entirely black genre. So did R&B. Yes, Jason, that is 100% still a problem. That is a worldwide problem, right? So, and it's not just the music industry either, but that's entirely a different subject. People who are mixed in the music industry get hit worse. Like, I acknowledge this. That said, there is extreme gatekeeping against people, say, for example, in country, who aren't white. So the industry's response is to gatekeep against white rappers and mixed rappers. It's not acceptable. It's not. I 100% agree. But it is in direct retaliation too. The rap section of the music industry has stated they will allow more white rappers. Several of them have become famous. They acknowledge there are white people with talent. But we can't allow them to overtake the genre until we're allowed to have our own artists in the other genres be just as promoted as everyone else. It's an equality issue. And they are holding out. I do agree it's wrong, but there is nuance there. Very specific nuance that really, really, really needs looked at. Until country music allows black artists, until Christian music allows black artists, heck, until mainstream jazz allows black artists back, because mainstream jazz even tries to keep black artists out. Until all of that is fixed, the rap industry will not fix that particular problem you brought up. And they have said as much. It is sad. And I do agree, it is a problem. But the nuance is there. Also, yes, Jason, you are 100% right. The idea of an idol, as it stands, idol culture is a thing, and it does cause harm to the people being, quote-unquote, worshipped. But you remember what she just said right before we got off on this part of the topic, where we started talking about the gatekeeping and stuff? Specifically, the Christian music industry, the subset that has female artists, is the United States equivalent of idol culture. The idol they are promoting is God through women who they are severely regulating the dress and behavior of. You see where I'm going with this, right? It is basically like an inverse of the idol culture problem with the Christian music industry when it comes to female artists. Which is why, again, Grace is so important as an artist. Yeah. And the same is true with the Christian music industry, Jason. Idols can legitimately be canceled for so much as being seen with a person of the opposite gender. Publicly. Like, the Christian music industry does actively try to keep people single. A good chunk of the United States music industry does that too, but nowhere near as much as idol culture or Christian music. But again, this goes back to why I think Grace is so important, because she's married, she's a lesbian, and she also is topping the Christian music charts as an independent artist. A few weeks or months back, that had a lot of idol side Twitter blow up because they were around someone. Yeah, that's a thing. That is legitimately a thing. But again, the Christian music industry is the United States version of that problem, just in the inverse, plus a whole host of other problems, and the problems from the first video we reacted to. So let's get back to this.
Like just doing it. Okay, I love it. Okay.
Well, it's what. Okay.
No, it's perfect.
I'm not saying it's a great song. I'm just saying that it's the structure of a worship song.
It's wonderful. Though I am not worthy.
Or something like glory ever undeserving.
It hurts me.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking about, like, when do the hands go up in the service? And we will praise. Yes. Yeah. It's sort of like a choose your own adventure of Christian buzzwords.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, you rescue me.
Ooh, that's a good
something.
one.
We will praise you, Holy Father, and we adore you, you rescue me.
All right, back to glory one more time.
No, I am not worthy. And then that's when that harmony is full on.
That's when it's full on. Guys, we have a minute to spare.
Christian worship song, 9 minutes or less.
And what's a song without a music video? Lauren had shared some of the guidelines.
Okay, I am going to go ahead and pause. Yes, Jason. 100%. You're 100% right. On the aspect of having people live with them, that and the strict diets, that's actually a music industry-wide problem, not just specifically idol culture. Like, there are labels that will do that shite to their artists, male and female alike. Flat out. Like, regulated exercise times, too. Like, no one industry is the only one doing something except the Christian music industry. We're going to get to that. Because yeah, Akunaneko, I do agree. Dance practice is fun, but strictly regulating all exercise time and food and clothing and where you live, yeah, Yeah. Any wrong move could ruin your entire career. But that's the thing, though. Going back to that first video we watched, any wrong move could ruin any music career. It's just idol culture amplifies it. Just like Christian music amplifies it. Like, the problems with the music industry have nothing to do with whether or not the music is popular. It has to do with exploitation and suppression of creativity and free will.
From an image.
Like, that's the whole music industry problem in general. Suppression of free will. That's it in a nutshell. But Christian music and idol culture, yeah, they definitely have a real problem with it.
Imaging standpoint,
So,
modest, covered up, still trendy, but in like a Mumford & Sons way, minimal movement. We did our best.
Though I am not worthy, new with every morning, you shine down on me. And we will praise you, oh Holy Father, and we adore you, you rescue me.
This is it. This is the mecca of
freaking ads.
you probably.
Let's write a song we care about.
Next!
So what do you want to write about?
What you sing is what you meditate on.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're just singing over and over that you are unworthy, like that's your meditation.
To be honest, I don't think I've ever felt like there would ever be a place for someone like me in worship music.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen it.
To me, it's kind of just the opposite of what we just did. I would love to hear a worship song that's saying, I am worthy, or I belong.
So we started writing. And it took longer than 9 minutes. We took a break to get a fresh perspective.
Hey!
Hi.
Come on in.
This is Adam Palmer. He's a songwriter, musician, and former founding member of I Am They, a pop acoustic worship group. After going through a divorce and enduring scorn and criticism from his community, Adam stepped away from the band. He's since been on his own journey, navigating the industry with...
Thank you, Jason. I know, as I said, I have officially written and produced 3 country songs. Sure, they were electronica, but they were country songs. So, I get how easy it is. Like, the music I write is specifically, I'm challenging myself with sound design to create vibes and emotions in song. Because that's my thing. I don't understand spoken words or written words well. Like, I've had to actively learn how to do that. Like, combination of dyslexia and autism does that to a person. It's not fun. Like, I've had to actively work at everything I've ever said, done, or thought in public, which, again, makes all of this... Okay, I will go ahead and check. Did you send it in my Twitch DMs, I'm guessing, then? But, back to what I was saying. It makes it so hard for me. Okay, I'll be sure to look at that after the stream. Thank you so much. I did go ahead and bookmark the name of that artist you recommended as well, Jason. It makes it hard to interact. Like, how I'm interacting right now. Like, it's awkward, it's crumbly, it's not quite all there. And I acknowledge that. And, like, occasionally you'll hear me, like, huff. I'm not upset or anything. Like, genuinely, I have lung issues. But imagine it 10 times worse. Imagine it 10 times worse. That is where I was back in 2014. I have been working on this my entire life. I even had a breakdown where it got even worse. Oh, a better country song than ever heard in over 20 years? I'll be sure to give it a look. But we are going to go ahead and go back to focusing on the Christian music industry because this shit gets fucking bad.
with his own progressive and inclusive faith.
I think without saying it, the average Christian listener wants the people on stage to be super Christians. They've really got the faith thing down. They're really dedicated, and like I read my Bible every single day and night. Like they want that so that they can project that, oh, that that exists, and I
That
can
it's
strive.
attainable.
It's attainable, and look at they've done it. But really, I found quite the opposite on the road.
Yeah.
Most people are struggling in their faith.
You don't have like a stable lifestyle, so you're always kind of in this flux of being confused with life. So questions and confusions, like part of the daily life when you're touring.
I've heard much talk about the names assigned to different demographics that Christian music targets, and I want to hear for myself. There's like a family of people?
Yes, excluding the dad. There's Becky. She's the mom that is really spoke to about the lyric of, I broke the heel off my shoe today, and the kids are making me late, and I have to clean up Cheerios, and blah, blah, blah. And then
Okay,
have
thank you,
Taylor,
Jason.
which is
I'll
the
be sure to
teenage
take a look at
girl,
that.
And she is targeted by heroes of modesty and purity. They want to pour into her this ethic of her sexuality needs to be this sacred prize.
And then what's the other demographic?
Austin. It's the teenage boy. He's listening to the hard rock bands like Skillet and the tough Christian rock bands. You want to be presented safe angst.
Safe angst?
Yeah.
Please, kids, practice angst safely.
Safely. God-honoring angst. The demographic focus is primarily based on reaching the mom.
Because she's the one in the car driving around the kids.
Yeah, that's a fascinating implication.
Yeah, that's obviously,
how we view gender roles and the culture.
like you said earlier, Jason, sexist as fuck.
Kids at home. Right. Doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room for like the mom that's out hustling and is the breadwinner. Like that's not a thing. Right. So yeah, it's very one-dimensional.
For me, music is about finding community through shared human experiences. When a song gives voice to something you thought that no one else could possibly understand. But whose hearts are being touched when the music is being written for imaginary, picture-perfect people? Whose stories aren't being heard? I headed out to meet Ricky Brady, Lauren's friend from church. Ricky has spent the majority of his life as a professional worship singer and songwriter. He competed on season 17 of The Voice, and frankly, has one of the best voices I've ever heard.
When I was like 4 and 5 years old, my mom, dad, and sister would sing like at the church, and I would sit with my grandmother and sing every single word that they were singing. My mom homeschooled me so I could travel with a Christian singing group when I was 16, and that's when I realized this is what I want to do.
Ricky worked in almost every facet of the industry, touring consistently with gospel groups, singing backup for major artists, and even writing and recording under a record deal. But he found that being in the closet was stifling his creativity and motivation. He got off the road and accepted a position as the music leader for a church worship team.
The pastor and I, we saw things differently, voted differently, but we were able to mutually respect each other. And
did they know that you were gay?
He still believed, I guess, that it was there, but I wasn't pursuing it, any relationship or anything like that. And so I knew that I needed to at least tell the pastor. There was a part of me that hoped, maybe naively, that because of the relationship that I'd had with the church for years, that they would say, okay, well, let's figure it out. You know, we love you, we appreciate your heart, anything like that. And it was not the response.
So you were fired?
I was basically let go, yeah. I was given the option almost to stay quiet, but not the option to stay and be authentic and honest. I've done a lot of session work here in Nashville, mostly for Christian artists, like choral stuff. I'm now not called for those things anymore.
Yep. Like all that stuff
My voice is powerful.
about
And the voices of
exclusion
other
in
women are
other
powerful.
industries.
Our voices could literally...
Like, the Christian music industry will exclude you if you are LGBT, but that's not all. In addition to excluding black people and LGBT people, there's this.
Our second to last interview was with a major Christian music label. We had a fine experience filming, but after we left, it became clear that they were not comfortable with some of the questions I asked. Hint, it was the gay ones. Following a polite and respectful discourse, we've opted not to include the interview. But I won't deny that it's frustrating not to be able to have an open dialogue, and it's hurtful that this interview is perceived to have been controversial.
Honestly, we didn't really learn anything especially new. There wasn't a major reveal in this interview. The only thing I can think of is that I asked about representation in the Christian music industry and if there was space for a gay artist. And the answer that I received was basically like, I don't know, to be determined, we don't talk about it, doesn't really come up. Which, honestly, I don't think is totally true, but that was the answer, and we moved on, and there were other questions that were asked as well. So there was a whole phone chain of freak out because I asked a question about representation and inclusion. I think that they don't want to be included in this story, and by not being included, I think that already speaks volumes to what we've heard from other people.
Yeah, it does.
It's just pretty sad to think that someone walked away from the conversation we had and was like, I think this could be a problem. Because the question isn't the problem. It's the fact that you're not having the conversation. It's the fact that you're complicit in this exclusion. That's the problem.
Yeah. And as I said, it gets worse. Hang on. I was a little bit wrong about where it pops into.
Talk with Dan from Jars of Clay.
Yep, this is the interview I was thinking of.
Paid attention to contemporary Christian music at all growing up, like other cool kids like me, then you know that Jars of Clay was a huge band. They were staples of the Christian music industry. I'm curious about what a long career revealed to him about the nature of the industry.
I'm Dan Hasseltine, and I am the singer for the band Jars of Clay.
You're a pretty big band.
We had a good run, I would say. We toured for about 22, 23 years. If you were reading the bio, it would say multi-platinum, 3-time Grammy-winning band Jars of Clay.
Same.
Yeah,
my bio too.
In 2014, Jars of Clay faced backlash after Dan sent out a handful of tweets questioning why people were so adamantly opposed to gay marriage.
Lifeway and like all the outlets that sold Christian music had pulled our Jars of Clay stuff off the shelves. We had been disinvited from a bunch of the music festivals and things that we were supposed to do that year. Christian radio had pulled our music off. They weren't going to play it anymore. It was the backlash of the Christian community because...
Bingo. Right there. It's not even just banning people like me, people like Grace. The Christian music industry bans anyone who even remotely suggests that we deserve equal rights. That even suggests that maybe we should be allowed to start families. The Christian music industry discriminates against people based solely on their opinions, not even on their actions. That is how bad it is with the Christian music industry. So let's continue.
As I was asking questions about how we treat the LGBT community, the fact that I was asking the questions meant that we were unsafe now. That was the moment where it was just like, okay, I guess we're not going to have this conversation with this community of people. And yet, I look at it and I go, I think we were asking the right questions. I don't regret pushing that conversation forward. There weren't any other Christian artists that were having that conversation.
There aren't.
There still really aren't.
There really aren't.
Yeah, and it's just unfortunate because the other thing I learned from it was just there's so many people that have been hurt really badly by the church.
Are there other artists that are sort of where you are but won't say anything publicly because...
Yeah, I've got a list. I'll just...
no, I mean, I just mean that, like, surely you can't be the only person who's questioning.
A lot of artists that are still in the spotlight, they believe that way, but they're really not allowed to say it. At some point, the value of an artist comes from telling the truth, to lift another person up rather than keep a person oppressed.
It makes me so sad because I think of music that was so there for me, that was like, that felt like so comforting.
Yeah.
I almost have to like redo some of my childhood memories because there are artists that now I think back on the struggles I was going through that I don't know like would be there for me. I just have to wonder, who was it for? Was it for me in the closet? Like who was it for? Would they have rathered that?
Yeah. Wow.
And I don't know.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Actually, I really am.
You don't need to apologize.
I know. Well, but as just a, it pains me that that's how like that's how the story plays out.
If you could make sort of a prediction or maybe a speculation on where you see the Christian music industry going, and perhaps what would your hope be?
I think there will be church music, and that's sort of the worship music that exists. And then I think the artists that want to look at the world and describe it, they're just finding their space amongst all the other artists in general music, which maybe is how it always should have been.
The fact that we don't have a Christian artist speaking to the powerful journey of coming out, coming into yourself, who God created you to be, that there isn't that, like, I'll buy that album, you know? I want to hear that story. And maybe it's not on a Christian label. They might not be ready for that. But it won't make it any less divinely inspired if it finds its way into the world.
All right, so I got the unit.
Give me a moment. I'm gonna mute Sep because too many commercials. Fuck. But yeah, no, that's part of the reason why Grace charted topped the charts. She was the first. She was the first gay Christian artist to actually succeed at making a Christian album. So.
I miss worship music. My goal, if I'm gonna start writing worship songs again, is to write songs that I resonate with and that people in my church could sing and you can sing and not be stepping over bad theology or damaging messages.
Sadly, I think the bridge was burned just by coming out, but it's met with a overwhelming amount of peace knowing that I am exactly where I need to be. Everything that I create, music and otherwise, is going to come from a place of complete honesty and oneness with myself and my Creator.
We know the resilience of the human spirit. We will always find a way.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm excited and hopeful for. And that's what I've learned from my time in Nashville. And also letting people know if you're gay, you can still listen to Jars of Clay.
Right, yeah.
Don't worry, it's okay.
Yes.
You never left me, and I believe I'm worthy, and you couldn't be closer. I see the light breaking through, so I'm gonna break free. Oh, you're alive. Why does the rain
And yes, this is a very, very, very well-written worship song. Not a Christian, but I am more than willing to support Grace, and that's part of the reason I added this to the list of what we needed to watch, because the Christian music industry has issues
Click here, and to subscribe, click here.
beyond just what the regular music industry has. So now that we've taken care of that, be sure to check Grace Baldridge out. This is not a sponsored anything, so let's go ahead and also, if you want to check out her Refinery 29 series State of Grace, please do so. Moving on, let's go ahead and move on to part 2 of why musicians are broke.
In part 1, I gave an overview of the music industry and how record contracts work. Today, we'll be applying what was taught to an artist who was hot back in 2011 and still owes her record label $800,000. And near the end, I'm going to unveil someone who I think is running an impressive business as an independent artist and is making significantly more money doing so. Hint, you've likely never heard of this Harvard-educated artist. Kreayshawn is an artist that blew up a decade ago. She still maintains a following of nearly 300,000 on YouTube, over 500,000 on Twitter, and over 300,000 on Instagram. She released music recently, but it was something she tweeted that caught my attention and could become a good anecdote to my first video about the music industry. For those of you who watched part 1, you should have a good understanding of why she might be in debt to Sony for $800,000. The reason why I find this story interesting is that Kreayshawn was hot for a minute and had actual hits. She has 2 songs on her YouTube that have reached 82 million views combined, and her YouTube as a whole has garnered 143 million views. Regardless of what you think about her music, in a lot of ways, she reached levels of success that most artists aren't able to attain. When her most popular song Gucci was playing everywhere, Sony very quickly signed her to a $1 million record contract. Krayshawn was recently in an interview on the Masked Gorilla podcast and gave great insights into the record business that I felt would make for a great educational video on how the business works.
Yeah.
Signs the $1 million deal. Yeah.
It was either shortly after or whenever, like, you did an interview and you were like, yeah, people think I just have $1 million in my bank account, but that's not how this whole thing works.
No. No, I got a portion of it. I definitely had it. When I put that check in my bank account, I think I had like $300 in my bank account, and then I just put in like a $300,000 check.
We don't know the exact details of the record contract, but my guess is that it was a 3-album contract, and she received roughly 1/3 of the money from the contract for each album as an advance. Now, class, what did we learn about record advances in part 1?
They are basically payday
recoupable,
lending
meaning
scams.
She was provided $300,000 to complete the album, but she still owed the money back to the label. And even worse, the advance is meant to serve as a way for the artist to pay for their expenses to make the album.
You sign your deal, you get dropped, you still get to keep the money they already gave you. They probably don't fulfill. Like, did you ever see the full million? Or it's like, here's the advance for the first album. That was like $300,000.
Yeah.
But you're floating off of that for the next few years, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're making money
Spent some of
doing
it.
other stuff.
Spent a lot of it.
Artist signs a $1 million record deal, they are a millionaire. That's not how it is. She only receives the $1 million if she fulfills whatever requirement is in the contract, which sometimes won't happen due to the label not releasing albums or an artist flopping and not getting a second chance. And the advance is money for
sometimes
the
they
artist
just
to
flat
live
out
off
don't
of
release
for
the
what might
music
be multiple years
that you make as a part of the
Because
contract.
anytime we did a tour or like anything like that, that came out of like my money. So like everyone's hotels, everyone's flights, but the bus, food, all that comes out of my money. So I mean, by the time it was all over, I wasn't even close to $300K, but it was enough.
If you follow certain genres of music where artists get signed and then wear their wealth or buy expensive cars, it's very important that you understand this principle. Just because an artist signs a $1 million deal does not mean they have any money. Krayshawn supported her team and paid for all of the expenses that came with making the album. It would be amazing to see the balance sheet of all the money spent. And she's a solo act. Imagine if this was a band of 3 or 4 people.
Yeah. So if I ever did get signed, one of the conditions of the contract is, hey, I want to make the conditions in my contract public. This is non-negotiable. I want to share it with the world. I want people to understand what the fuck I'm getting into. And I want people to understand that this is normal, with the exception of the publicly disclosing all the stuff in the contract. This is what is normally in a contract. This is what happens to happen. And that's part of the reason why I'm waiting to sign. Because I really, really don't want to sign anything. So
the money would be split even more. What's challenging for new artists that finally get the record deal and only have $300 in their bank account is that they don't have the habits and knowledge of personal finance to be able to handle that much money hit their bank account all at once. It's very easy to spend it when it's all in your bank account and you don't understand what recoupable means. In hip hop and rap, you'll see artists go out and buy custom jewelry, exotic cars, and living a lavish lifestyle all on Instagram, and you may think they're ballin', but really they're just spending the label's money. This next segment is why so many artists today have a difficult time making any money as a major label artist.
When you say he wrote it, do you mean he just wrote the hook and you filled in the verses, or he wrote the entire song?
No, he wrote the whole thing. I think the only thing I did at that time was like switch some things out that like made more sense, or like, you know, put a little bit more of like a female perspective on it. But other than that, like he sent it to me. He was like, yo.
Sorry. This is a problem because it's generally how it goes. Like, they will not allow you to, as a label artist, sing your own stuff. And they will still take your master rights away. So, yeah, there's all that.
Oh, you should do this. I'm like, okay.
What's hard to see behind the scenes with your favorite artists is who is actually producing the music. Many artists in music rely on a team of people to make their music. If an artist didn't write their own music, why should they get a huge cut of the profits? They're essentially just a performer in the face of the production. If your favorite artist doesn't play any instruments or write their own music, it's likely that they receive a very small royalty check from the income generated by their music.
You're saying a song that you wrote completely by yourself, you still got less percentage.
Because, you know, anybody who walks in a studio gets a percent somehow, you know?
Right, yeah.
I'll be writing a song, they're like, you should say they are instead of there. And then next thing you know, they have a percentage on your record. You're like, what? Like,
I don't know how prevalent this is, but for those of you who are in the music industry, I would love to hear about your experience on how many mouths are getting fed.
I'm doing the album, and like the label's really pushing this agenda of like being pop, because I think what happened was they just couldn't figure out how to market what Gucci Gucci was into like record sales. They're like, let's save this and like turn her into Katy Perry.
What I found really interesting in this next interview clip, she says,
How do you feel about signing this deal with Columbia?
I feel like it's a good move. They're like, we want you to do whatever you want to do, whatever you're doing and working with, like keep working with them.
The label signed her wanting to be herself, but then tried to control her into becoming a pop star like Katy Perry, which she certainly was not. This practice seems to be common with many major label artists. Let's look at this from the label's perspective. Their sole purpose is growing an artist into a profitable business, and the easiest way to do that is to appeal to the widest audience as they can. One of the major themes of the movie A Star is Born is Bradley Cooper's character trying to keep Lady Gaga's character from becoming another manufactured pop star for the label and losing what made her special. There's always going to be tension between artists and record executives because of how different their jobs are. Artists want to make music and executives want to make money.
Ding, 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 ding. Like, we've known this, but at the same time, yeah, it is that bad.
Unfortunately, sometimes executives want a specific sound or specific image for an artist that doesn't align with what the artist wants for themselves. The root cause of tension between artists and record labels revolve around two concepts. One, the artist feels like their record contract isn't fair and that the label is taking too much of the profit. Or two, creative control of the music and the artist's ability to have free reign over their sound and image. Here, Lupe Fiasco details a conversation he had with Leror Cohen, formerly chairman and CEO of Warner Music Group, where he likened the setup to the mob cartel after Cohen threatened to not promote Lupe's albums if he didn't fall in line.
He was an accountant for Neo and Brian McKnight too, but he was stealing everyone's money.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
is that like in the news? Yeah,
he went to jail. He's in jail right now.
To pay your taxes for the year, because when you get paid by a record label, you're an independent contractor, and they don't take taxes out of what they give you. So it's your responsibility to pay the government, and you hire an accountant, and you think he's doing it. So you're giving him the money that you think is going
to pay that. But he never
He's
filed.
Pocketing it. This is my worst nightmare.
He never even filed for all those years.
Shit.
And so yeah, I owed $350,000 in taxes. So they wiped my bank account to zero.
What's also unfortunate about the entertainment industry is that there are greedy scumbags who con athletes and artists out of their money. There's no easier target for a scammer than someone who just signed a contract that took them from being broke to having a lot of money in their bank account in one day. According to this MTV article, her Something About Cray album sold 3,900 units in the first week of release. And in this excellent article written by Mark Tavern, only 17,000 physical and digital albums have been sold to date as pure sales. Remember that the record label received their cut from album sales first. The royalties owed to Kreayshawn only amounted to roughly $100,000. Because the album flopped, the label cut off their investment in her, and Kreayshawn never released another album. I've noticed that record labels will shelve albums and no longer promote you if they don't believe you can become a star that brings in the dough. You ultimately become a slave to your contract since the label isn't going to release another album of yours and you're unable to go record for any other labels. I'm going to include the link to a really well-written article in the description below titled What It's Like When a Label Won't Release Your Album on BuzzFeed, which highlights all of the ways an artist can get shelved. I have two final thoughts. One, the labels take on ridiculous financial risk. They signed Kreayshawn to a $1 million deal hoping she could turn her fame from Gucci Gucci into a profitable career. They risked $1 million in access to their entire billion-dollar system in hopes that they could make a profit on her music, but she only sold 3,900 copies in the first week. They only recoup probably $40,000 off a $300,000 advance, plus marketing and salary dollars. The labels act the way they do because they need to profit, and they mostly profit off of the 1 or 2 home runs on the roster that help pay for all of the other artists who lose money. 2, I want to highlight an artist who I highly respect who is making a great career as an independent. Ryan Leslie is a Harvard graduate and was once seen as an up-and-coming star for a major label. He is most known for his Grammy-nominated album in 2011, Transition. Ryan is incredibly talented as he conducts and produces his own music. He was one of the first artists to provide a glimpse into the life as a musician on his YouTube channel, where he would vlog about his experiences and behind-the-scenes look at producing his music. He is also known for producing the hit track Me and You by Cassie, who he eventually dated. When Ryan got dropped from his major label, he decided to make music on his own terms.
I don't care how many demons he's fought and how many hells. He's never fought us.
Yeah.
And I felt like living in a land of technology now and innovation and entrepreneurship, I should actually have a direct contact with all my fans.
The consumer, correct.
Right. So I gave my number out. So I gave my number out 2013.
You were the first crazy person to do that. I'm giving my number, but you gave your real number out.
Yeah, I gave my real number out. And
similar to an email marketer, Ryan captures fans' emails and allows them to purchase his albums, concert tickets, and merchandise directly through his Renegades Club membership. This allows him to communicate directly with his fans in a semi-personal automated messaging system. But what this also allows is access to data on where your fans are located and how much they spend with you. This gives Ryan and his team the ability to understand where he should hold concerts and who he should send personalized messages to while on stage.
Connect with the people who really cared about my music, and they paid me directly. I didn't have.
This is part of the reason why. TuneCore is so important as a distributor, because if you don't already have money to invest into stuff like this, you get the analytics data still. Like, my biggest audience draw for my music, heck, even for my Twitch channel, comes from India. So, doing a show in, I don't know, Dubai? It's Dubai, yeah? Hang on. Dubai is in India, yeah? Nope, Dubai is in the United Arab Emirates. Hang on. Because that's my second highest. The UAE, let's see. It's, what was the city name? I remember that the country was India, so hang on. Let me... Mumbai. That's why I got them mixed up, because they both rhymed. Nice. Okay, so Mumbai, and if the UAE would allow a gay person in without executing them, I would, if I were doing a world tour, stop there. That's why analytics is so important. But I digress. Let's continue.
I have to wait for streaming services, etc. Everything was just direct, and so I can now tour based on just who I know. Every single person that actually bought my record.
Right. Written in this Pando article, David Holmes writes, check this out. Leslie's first album released on Motown in 2008 sold 180,000 copies, but the royalties Leslie received from those sales did not cover the $100,000 advance he received to produce it. His new self-distributed album, however, has only sold 12,000 copies, less than 1/10 the sales of his Motown debut, and yet Leslie has received around 160 grand in revenue off album sales alone. When merchandise sales and concert tickets purchased through his site are taken into account, Leslie has made over $400,000 since going independent.
So when I actually sold my record directly, no middleman, I sold my tickets directly, no middleman, 15,000 records times $10, that's 150,000 and went straight to my pocket.
Hopefully by now you can start understanding what artists mean when they talk about their record deals. Because Ryan produces and writes his own music, he was able to make money on the publishing side, so he did fine, but most artists don't write, produce, and record their music.
the beauty of actually knowing every single person who bought my record means that when I went on tour, I could send a text to them.
I'm in your city.
Right? I'm in your city.
I'm really bummed because this interview is unfortunately copyrighted, so I had to remove some really important clips after I completed making the video. Ryan goes in detail about his previous record deal and the numbers behind his current music business. If you're interested in this topic, I would highly recommend listening to this interview that Ryan did with The Breakfast Club. I really enjoyed the comments from part 1, which made me realize that this could be a multi-part series. If there's anything you feel I have missed or want me to discuss, let me know, as I'd love to make a part 3. Or if you're one of the handful of people watching this who have a legitimate experience in this business, please email me, reach out to me. We'll discuss on a Zoom chat for part 3. Thank you so much for watching.
Okay, so for those of you still with me, thoughts so far? Anybody? Thoughts? Okay. Well, given the stream delay, it might take a minute or two. All right. So given that we've spent about 2 hours, 30 minutes already, I'm going to go ahead and say that this would be a good time to take a break, grab something to eat, grab something to drink. We will be back in roughly 10 minutes. Let's see. Where is that intermission screen that I normally don't get to use? There. All right, I'm going to go ahead and let the puppy out for a bathroom break. Come here, girl. Come on. Go ahead and make sure you got your fence turned on. Here we go. Out. Good girl. All right. We will be returning in just a moment. All right, we are back. You might hear me occasionally, like, munching on popcorn, because I made some. All right. Let's go ahead and get into the next one. So, here's where I'm going to pose a question to you, chat. I'm going to see if I can't get a poll going. Let's see here. I need to put a poll in chat. Nope, it's not going to let me? Shite. Okay. Huh. Interesting. Okay, well, let me know if you are still watching, and I will go ahead and just ask this aloud then. Okay, given the amount of lag, that should be good. Okay. Well, given that, let's go ahead and dive in. I dislike Kanye as a political matter, but his music is good. Let's go ahead and see what the heck is going on with him and the record industry, shall we?
If you've never heard of
Looks like
UPAC,
they're
that's okay.
20 minutes
We
worth.
don't spend money on expensive TV commercials or radio.
Kanye West posting his record contracts on Twitter didn't happen randomly. This is an artist that has been fighting the record industry for a decade now. For context on why his attitude with the record label has reached a contentious nature, we need to go back a few years. In August 2005, Kanye West sued Eric Miller. From this MTV article, the lawsuit also says that Miller, who helped West record the tracks while he was still a struggling artist, falsely claimed he had the right to distribute the Grammy winners' recordings and tried to fool distributors with a fake contract on which he'd forged West's signature. West is seeking $1.3 million from Miller and wants the DJ to stop using his name or voice in connection with the recordings. In 2018, Eric Miller sued Def Jam Recordings, Island Records, and Universal Music Group for their breach of contract pertaining to them releasing and promoting unreleased Kanye West songs. The more you analyze the music business, the more you realize that everyone just sues everyone at some point. You haven't made it yet if you haven't sued your label or former manager, apparently. In January 2019, Kanye West sued EMI Publishing over his contract that indicated that he could never retire. Kanye West has made the record labels over $100 million from his time as a recording artist and has now made it very clear that he's ready to own his work. Nuh-uh, Mr. West.
Mr. West! Mr. West! Mr. West!
The labels are not going to be giving you control at any time soon. Let's start with this 2005 agreement with Rockefeller Records. In Article 2, Section 2, we see the contract period written out. I found this section fascinating as the contract is specifically for what's called the initial period, and all future albums exist within an option period. My interpretation is that the labels never get truly locked into a long-term deal in this scenario. They either pick up the option, which allows the artist to make another album, or they don't. This contract appears to be an amendment since it's dated April 13th, 2005, which is over a year after the College Dropout was released. The original contract with Rockefeller Records was signed on August 13th, 2000.
To study the
2002. Article 5, Section 1 just happens to be the longest paragraph I've ever read in my life. Coincidentally, this paragraph includes all the language necessary for the artist to understand that the label will have the rights and complete ownership of anything the artist does.
Yep.
This 2,000-word paragraph makes sure that no wrongful interpretations can take place. Together with the performances embodied therein, and all artwork, and all copyrights therein and thereto, and all renewals and extensions thereof, shall be entirely Rockefeller's property, free of any claims whatsoever by grantor, artist, or any other person, throughout the world and in perpetuity. There is no room for misinterpretation in these contracts. We own everything you do, and we want you to know that. Now to the fun section of advances, where the contract states that Kanye West will receive an advance of $3.5 million as the second album recording fund. That's a lot of money, because the next sentence states that he will receive $2.3 million as a second album execution advance. The $2.3 million will be delivered after completion of the album. If a commercially satisfactory second album is physically delivered to Rockefeller by the target date, then Rockefeller will increase the second album recording fund by $750,000 as a timely delivery advance. I found this next part to be fascinating. Within 18 months, if the album has sold 3 million units, a $250,000 further advance. 3.5 million sales will lead to a $500,000 further advance. If 3 million units are sold within 11 months, not 18, then Kanye will receive an additional $500,000 advance. Notice that it's not a "congratulations, you made us a bunch of money" bonus. It's an additional advance, which the way I read it means it's going to be recoupable against future success or future albums. Here's a cool chart showing the amount of money Rockefeller would be giving to Kanye for each subsequent album following the second album. The amount is determined by previous sales of albums. In subsection 3, the contract states that the artist will be responsible for any overages to produce the album. If the artist doesn't have the money, then the funds will be deducted from future earnings. And of course, if the album hasn't been delivered on time, then the recording fund will be reduced by 5% each month.
You see why the pay-to-play for the indie industry is absolutely not ridiculous as corrupt as it fucking is. Because this contract is emblematic of the rest of the fucking industry. Not even fucking kidding.
Time's ticking, artists. The label needs to make their money now, today. Now onto the royalties section, where we find out just how little the artist is making. No royalties shall be due and payable to grantor until such time as all advances have been recouped by or repaid to Rockefeller.
Yeah.
Remember in the videos I made about the record industry, the term recoupable means the label makes all of their money back first before the artist sees any money. Kanye only made 8% of all singles and long play singles. The way I read this, it's now 12%. Kanye had a royalty rate of 14% that escalated to 14.5% if the album sold 500,000 units. If the album went platinum with over 1 million units sold, then Kanye had a royalty rate of 15%. Since his first album went platinum, they then offered him 18.5% if the album sold 1 million units and 19% if the album sold 2 million units. Imagine watching your album sales grow from 1 million to 2 million and only seeing a 0.5% bump in your royalty rate. Labels generally consider their revenue to be $10 per album, so a jump from 1 million records sold to 2 million records sold would be equivalent to around $10 million earned for the label. An additional 0.5% bump as a bonus is equivalent to only $50,000. Mechanical royalties are going to be important for Kanye as he writes some of his music and produces a lot of his music. Article 9, Section 1, Paragraph A states that Kanye will earn 75% of the statutory rate at the time of release of the music. The royalty rate is calculated against net sales. Let's assume that the royalty rate is 10 cents per song. There are 15 songs in the album, and Kanye sells 1 million records. Each song would be worth 7.5 cents, as that is 75% of the statutory rate in our example. With 1 million in sales, each song would generate $75,000 in royalties, times 15 songs would give you $1.125 million. This is why you commonly hear artists talking about the importance of writing and producing your own music. A lot more can be made on the publishing and composition side. For help understanding this concept, I use this blog post from Bart Day Law. You may also come across people who are wealthy in the music business, but you've never really heard their name or don't recognize their face. That's probably because they were writing or contributing behind the scenes of successful artists and were getting the entire publishing royalty side. Remedies. In Article 12, Section 2, we find what happens if the artist gets into financial trouble. This section outlines what happens if the artist goes through bankruptcy or becomes insolvent. The label will have the ability to require that artists render artist personal services directly to Rockefeller for the remaining balance of the term upon all the same terms and conditions as are herein contained. The royalties and any advances payable hereunder shall be reduced to 2/3 of the amounts prescribed in the...
Now there's a new way Experian Boost can raise your credit scores.
So just by paying for my streaming services, I'm actually boosting my credit score?
Sorry if you're
That's
having to
amazing.
hear me
It's so cool
get
that
huffy. I'm
agreement.
having a little bit of
Artists,
trouble
we're so
breathing.
sorry
Just
that
give
we
me a minute.
misled you into believing the advance was your money, and if you eventually go bankrupt, then we will still need your services, but only provide 2/3 of the advance money that you'll find in this contract. This is part 1. I will be releasing part 2 in a couple of days. I wanted to keep these videos short as I could and to the point so that it's easier to digest. Making a 20-minute video with a bunch of legal documents doesn't seem that entertaining, so I'm breaking it up for you.
I just feel like I'm the only one not pretending I'm not at.
Everybody loves Ye.
Here we have the amendment to Kanye's contract for his movie Cruel Summer. Here's a quick look at what the short film looked like.
The only decision I'm trying to make tonight is Bugatti, McLaren, or Lambo.
Well, if it's my way, it's been on the board.
That looks like a really interesting movie experience. At the bottom of page 1, artist claims that the movie budget has exceeded the original budget of $3.2 million by $1.5 million. Kanye has done a lot of complaining about the record industry, but there are some examples of him receiving help. Going over budget on his film by $1.5 million, and there doesn't seem to be any pushback, is a good indicator that the label was actually more than willing to help Kanye out. What I found interesting about this contract is that IDJ, Island Def Jam, was willing to pay for the excess budget to a musical artist who had no prior movie directing experience, but the labels are too smart. They simply deducted the necessary money to complete the Cruel Summer short film from Kanye's album 6, Back End. Given the date on this contract, one can assume that his 6th album was his next album. The contract states that if there is not enough money now in the recording budget for the 6th album, then the label will reduce the amount of money in the 7th album recording budget. Basically, everything is an upfront loan for Kanye. In subsection D, the contract states that the first $1.5 million earned from this film will be used to replenish the 7th album recording fund first, then replenish the 6th album recording fund. I'm disappointed that there isn't any mention of royalties within this contract, nor did he upload the original contract with Island Def Jam or the contract with Doha Film Institute, who helped produce the movie. I would be personally interested to see all ownership rights and the exact payout of a film. My guess is that the film didn't earn enough money for Kanye to recoup the advances in order to make the film, so it's irrelevant, but it would be really interesting to see what the profit structure would be like if the film took off and actually turned a profit. Here we have the recording agreement dated March 2013 between Island Def Jam Music Group and Getting Out Our Dreams LLC, commonly known as Good Music. Around this time, Kanye had delivered 5 albums that sold really well. The Watch the Throne album with Jay-Z was a cultural smash, nominated for many awards, and was a commercial success. Kanye's 6th album would ultimately be named Yeezus, and the compilation album alluded to in this contract, Cruel Summer, was created to promote his label Good Music's artists. By December 2012, Kanye had incurred $639,000 of recording costs for Cruel Summer and $1,163,000 for 6th album recording costs. Also, thrown into this agreement is the approximate Paris recording cost of $493,000.
Bound our rival, the un-American idols. Got 'em hanging off the Eiffel.
I don't know what Kanye was doing in Paris, but spending $500,000 in a short amount of time must have been fun. Kanye also had a $12 million recording fund for his 6th album, $8 million paid as an execution advance to Kanye himself. Imagine getting paid $8 million to complete a record.
Even after
I don't even get $1.50.
Foam.
I pay to finish my shit.
Given his artistic prowess in 2012, I imagine the label was very confident that he would be able to sell enough to recoup the advance. A big theme of this channel is the value in sharing all of the expenses incurred whenever we start throwing around income numbers. Kanye has made his money, most likely a majority of it coming outside of music, so he's an outlier. But when you see these huge record contracts and artists flashing money, you can't evaluate how much money they really have until you see their contracts. If we check out the contract between Island Def Jam and Kanye dated May 2012, almost a full year before the previous contract we just analyzed, we can see an example of the label exercising the option for the artist to continue making albums. We can see that his advance was in fact $12 million to record the 6th album. check out how many people are included in the making of the album as writers and producers. He received royalties of 22% on this album, which is the most I've seen so far. He needed a high royalty rate in order to pay off the $12 million advance.
Yep.
Let's check out the Watch the Throne record contract. This is one of my favorite albums personally. $2.5 million recording budget, $1 million advance to Kanye West, and the remaining $1.5 million to be administered by Rockefeller towards recording costs. The royalty rate for this album was 15%, which seems to be about average. Kanye's album, The Life of Pablo, would serve as his 8th album, and he received a $3 million advance. We haven't really touched on the distribution numbers yet. In this contract for his 8th album, Island Def Jam would receive 26% of net billings as a distribution fee, and 25% if the net album sales exceed $15 million. I find the marketing section fascinating. I've noticed this a few times within the contract that the amount spent on an expense is predicated on the reasonably projected album sales by Island Def Jam. For Kanye's 8th album, Island Def Jam would spend an amount equal to 25% of the amount of net billings that Island Def Jam reasonably projects. In IDJ's sole reasonable good faith discretion based on projected sales, less discounts and returns. I'm so fascinated by this entire industry. I would love to sit in on the important marketing meetings discussing how to best use their resources to market an album or artist, especially because their budget is all on an estimate of sales in an industry where a lot of artists flop and sell much less than expected. This image posted by Kanye included the key terms of all of his agreements and amendments between Island Def Jam and Good Music. This section describes Kanye's complete control of all aspects of the making of a record. One of the benefits of having your own label, complete creative control. I thought it was interesting to see the section detailing Island Def Jam's investment into Good Music. IDJ funded $800,000 towards overhead fees for Good Music's operating expenses, sending $200,000 each quarter, and there's escalators for performance that beats expectations. While editing this video, I decided to read through the contracts one more time after a little more research and found that the 7th album and all subsequent albums are actually press and distribution, aka P&D albums, which are different than royalty albums. UMG's obligation to fund any and all recording funds, advances, recording costs to grantor pursuant to the P&D agreement is hereby deemed terminated. Grantor shall prospectively fund any and all recording costs in connection with artists' recording of the P&D albums hereunder. The label would make their money from the distribution of this album, but money earned from the sales of this album would first go to Kanye's unrecouped accounts from other albums released under the royalty share system, and then all monies earned after those accounts are recouped goes into his P&D account. Unfortunately, it wasn't clear on the profit share in the terms of this contract, but I've seen mention of a 50-50 split on all net sales. By all accounts, these are great terms for an artist. One other note from this contract that left me really bummed is that there's mention of a possible lost Yeezus Tapes album that could possibly exist, but never got released. After going through these contracts 4 different times, there was nothing that I found that I believe warranted the response of Kanye tweet storming all of the contracts. Hopefully by now, those of you who watch my videos on the music industry are aware of how the game is played and that nothing should come as a surprise. One thing I would love to have seen is the explicit terms of how much Kanye gets paid from tours and merchandise. When I talk about the 360 deals in the videos I've made, I thought it would be written out a little more clearly in the contracts that these artists sign, but that doesn't seem to be the case. I didn't see anything regarding his touring schedule or touring profit share. I'm certainly an amateur at reading contracts, so maybe there's some language that I overlooked, but I definitely did not get the vibe that this was all of the contracts signed. I think there's probably some separate contracts for the touring and the merchandise. My interpretation of Kanye's resentment to the music industry is that he's an artist that wants full control of his music and everything he does and has done. The terms of these contracts seem pretty favorable to Kanye from my perspective. He received large advances and a higher than average royalty split on album sales. My guess is that he sees how much money the label is making and believes that he should be getting a higher percentage of the profits. I also think he wants complete ownership over everything he has done in the past. Unfortunately for Kanye, contracts do not work like that.
I went to go buy my publishing from Sony ATV, and they said it's $8 million, $9 million. And when I went to buy it, they told me no, I couldn't buy my publishing. They told me I have the money to buy my publishing, and they told me that I couldn't buy my publishing.
Now that he's a proven superstar artist, I think he wants the terms he's been receiving lately to be applied to his earlier albums when he was way more of a risk. From his lawsuit and consistent consternation with EMI regarding his publishing, it seems like Kanye wants full ownership of his production credits as well. The reason why I can't fully side with either the artist or the label is that both sides need each other. The labels take huge risks on artists in an industry that has seen rapidly declining record sales. The only way for artists to exist within this billion-dollar machine is for the labels to make money so that they can keep the machine running and give opportunities to the next wave of artists. All of the artists who were given big advances, adequate recording budgets, a big marketing budget, and didn't deliver an album that sold well don't seem to be complaining at all. Kanye tweeted out asking for support from all of the lawyers in the world to take a look at the contract. I don't see anything changing with the music business anytime soon. The only catalyst for change will be an influx of artists who go the independent route and turn down labels' offers. This happens now, of course, but the labels aren't hurting for money. Once their bank accounts start taking a big enough hit from missing out on big artists after big artists who decided to go the independent route, then they will be forced to make changes. There will always be enough small artists willing to take the record advance and sign to the major label versus playing the long game and going independent, ensuring that the record labels will continue with what they've been doing for decades. Thank you so much for watching.
All right, we're going to go ahead and skip to part 3 of the main series.
Steve and Dave use eToro to
and
trade
then the
cryptocurrencies. Steve
video
does
about the
extensive
Wu-Tang Clan,
research in
because
order to find the
I
next
kind of want to
Bitcoin.
get to that.
Dave does research on how to become a...
How come I'm not getting paid? And that's what drove home the point to me that every time the music gets played, somebody gets paid. Every time the music gets played, somebody gets paid.
In part 1, I gave an overview of how the music industry works and why a lot of musicians go broke by signing 360 deals. In part 2, I used a real-life example of an artist named Creation talking about her deal and why she doesn't make any money from her music because of the deal she signed. The most popular comment was criticizing the artist for signing the deal and not getting a lawyer. This is a very good point, but what if the artist did have a lawyer? Here is an entertainment lawyer on the Ill Mind podcast.
The misconception about entertainment lawyers, most of them is like that they're going to do more than just look over your paperwork.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Most of them, even your favorite ones, are going to just look over your paperwork.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the language in contracts can deter most people from even trying to read the contract. If you don't have any context or base level understanding of the wording used in entertainment contracts, then it's unlikely that you'll be able to make sound judgments as to what you're actually signing. So you listen to all the comments on my YouTube videos and you hire a lawyer. In the video I shared, the lawyer mentioned that some may just look over the paperwork and make sure there isn't anything out of the ordinary. Well, that's not great if the ordinary is an artist signing away their masters and ownership for a small cut. Some artists don't actually need to go find a lawyer because their friends at the record company said, "Don't worry, new artist, we have you covered. We'll give you the contact info to a lawyer that's respected in town." Here's Royce da 5'9", one of my favorite hip-hop artists, explaining the lawyer game.
A lot of the attorneys, especially if they link you up with attorneys, a lot of the attorneys are they're drawing up label-friendly deals, telling the artist to sign them and telling them that it's fair. And what they're doing by that is they're building up a relationship with the executives at the labels. So, you know, the artist coming and going is just kind of like a revolving door. You know what I mean? So during that process, the attorneys build up the relationship with the people at the record labels. The attorney is charging the artist and also getting kickback from the label.
I've heard this said in a few places now that many artists are signing deals with the help of a lawyer without knowing that their lawyer friend is either employed by the label or has a financially benefiting relationship with the label. This is the textbook definition for conflict of interest. On July 15th, 2020, news broke that popular hip-hop group Migos was suing their lawyer. Migos alleged that their own lawyer had cheated them out of millions of dollars. The group sued him for malpractice. Their attorney, Damian Granderson, has been their lawyer since 2013, but since he also represents the record label Quality Control Music, the group claimed that he used his position to negotiate deals with 300 Entertainment and Capitol Music that left their record label with a disproportionate compensation. although it was at the expense of Migos. Migos complained that due to Granderson's conflicts of interest, the record deal would allow Capitol to distribute all albums that QCM produced, and that QCM was actually profiting far more handsomely than was apparent from the face of the documents that Granderson personally presented to Migos for immediate execution. They also claimed that their lawyer failed to disclose both the complete nature of his relationship with QCM and the complete nature of the conflict in representing both QCM and Migos. He also apparently made them sign terms that were unconscionable for Migos in an amended 2018 distribution deal with Capitol. Here's DJ Toomp, a legendary producer, speaking on the matter.
Of anything, in any type of business, if you think about it, that's kind of like your attorney being your label. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it's
yeah.
like, okay, if you got a problem with the label, it's your management that's supposed to get on the label's case.
Right.
But if your management is the label,
as I said,
work.
I'm a
top to
licensed
bottom
real estate
corruption.
agent in Cincinnati, Ohio. You have disclosure agreements for all transactions for a reason. If an agent is representing both the buyer and the seller, then they have to disclose this fact to all parties involved in the transaction. If they do not, they risk heavy fines and penalties. One of the other major criticisms found in my comment section is that artists signed the deal, therefore they should be held responsible to the terms. And I absolutely agree, but most up-and-coming artists probably have a low-paying job to pay the bills, don't have an established paying fan base, and aren't equipped with enough skills or management to be able to go independent fully. So a label shows up at their door and offers a $1 million record contract. Woo, I'm gonna be a millionaire. How could you possibly turn down the deal if you don't understand every nuance of the music industry? Most young kids and up-and-coming artists don't have a lawyer in their phone, so when the label says, we'll give you $1 million record deal and we'll provide all of the management and lawyer personnel for you to become the next star, how could you expect someone to not get bought into the dream? How many of you watching this video have consulted with a lawyer whenever you were signing the paperwork for your current employment? Probably not many. I know I didn't. And they were paying me a lot less than what a lot of these are signing as their advance or their record deal. Here's John Kellogg giving advice to artists who may not be able to afford a lawyer.
So it's very important to have a lawyer look at it. And there are organizations, if you can't afford and a lawyer that does it regularly, there are usually volunteer association, volunteer lawyers for the arts in every town. And you really need to find an attorney. I was in the same position with my band when I was in college. You know, we got offered a deal and we had to go to a criminal lawyer, didn't know much about it. He went through the contract and he said, this contract is horrible. Most new artist contracts are horrible.
Yep. Here's another entertainment lawyer speaking about the value of getting the right terms on your first contract.
I'm Don Passman, Los Angeles, California, and I'm an attorney in the music business. Artists should get a lawyer as soon as they have something going on in their life that they're going to end up having to make a deal of some kind. Even a very simple deal ought to be run by a lawyer, because some of the biggest mistakes that have been made in the music business are made by people who at the beginning of their careers signed long-term deals where they were tied up for important rights with people that may or may not have been the right people and in fact had gotten in the way of their career. And some big names have been involved with this. People like Billy Joel, people like Bruce Springsteen, people like Michael Jackson had contracts that caused them difficulties that they signed early in their career. And a lot of times if they'd had a lawyer review it, then they might have avoided some of these problems.
Does anyone watching want to know a little secret about the record industry on how they scam artists? In my research for part 1, I came across what are called breakage deductions and how this is a little known industry secret that the labels want to keep hush-hush. Not too long ago, the music industry would sell vinyl records and physical copies of CDs. When you're moving the volume that they were moving, unfortunately sometimes the product would get damaged in transit to the retailer stores. Who do you think would pay for the damaged product? In this Texas.gov template for an exclusive artist recording contract, there is a section for deductions and breakage fees. This SoundOnSound.com article provides good input to the breakage deductions. Overall, you might only get paid on 90% of actual sales since retailers are able to return records they don't sell. The record label therefore holds onto a portion of your royalties, usually 10%, as a reserve until all sales are verified. You must make sure that this reserve will be liquidated, paid out, at regular intervals, and that the artist, you, receives their entitlement in full. In reality, most deductions are artificial and in no way reflect the true cost to the label. Packaging on CDs manufactured in volume is cheap. Similarly, as more records are sold through digital channels, a reserve for breakages and the allocation of free digital goods ceases to make any sense at all other than to boost the label's profits. I'm not sure how often breakage fee deductions exist in contracts today. I would need to see all of them, but I would not be surprised if some contracts still have that clause. I mean, think of how silly it is that they can throw in this breakage deduction clause into your contract when almost all the money is made from streams nowadays, not even actual CD sales. Just another little trick that the label uses to make as much money as they can off all you little artists. After my first 2 videos in this series have gained some serious traction, I have now realized how massive of a topic the music industry is, and my plan is to keep discussing all the various nuances in this industry. I find this to be a fascinating and entertaining topic. If you have any stories or info...
Okay, I'm genuinely interested to see what happened to the Wu-Tang Clan, because I knew something happened, but I wasn't sure.
The ugly side of the music industry is that business will always be a controlling factor in the dynamics of a group of artists.
That's why I'm a music business major in addition to a music producer.
Egos and superstars outshining other members will always be prevalent within a group of entertainers. Unfortunately, these factors played a key role in the history of the greatest rap group ever, the Wu-Tang Clan. From the streets of Shaolin, a group of 8 lyrical swordsmen became hip-hop's hottest group in the mid-1990s. This was an all-star group of MCs from Staten Island and Brooklyn joining forces to become a hip-hop supergroup. There's no tighter-knit family in hip-hop than the Wu-Tang Clan, exemplified by the group still being together nearly 30 years after their debut album hit the shelves. Despite drama, lawsuits between members, public disagreements, and disappearing acts from obligations to the Wu, the group is still close enough to this day that they can come together and not let their past issues ruin their brotherhood. While watching Showtime's excellent documentary titled Of Mics and Men on YouTube, I noticed how the group's issues throughout the years could be traced back to the business side of the music industry.
Ding, ding,
I
ding,
think
ding,
it will be
ding.
fun for us to learn about the music business through the history of the Wu-Tang Clan and why the business side at times tore the group apart. One unfortunate reality of the music business is that labels can and will drop artists if they don't sell or if they don't believe in the artist. The Genius dropped his debut album while signed to Cold Chillin' Records, and Prince Rakeem dropped his debut album while signed to Tommy Boy Records. Both were dropped from their labels after those releases. The Genius, Prince Rakeem, and their cousin Russell Jones decided to start their own group and took on the names GZA, RZA, and ODB respectively. Given their poor experience dealing with a label, GZA and RZA were ready to form their own sound and create their own path in the music industry. RZA was the mastermind of this new group that would become the Wu-Tang Clan. Grabbing the best lyricists from the Stapleton Houses and Park Hill projects in Staten Island helped form the Brotherhood from the start. They were family because they grew up together. Creating a record just meant putting their rap battles on an official track. How were they able to fund the creation of the first album? They were given investment money from RZA's brother Mitchell Divine Diggs and his business partner Oliver Power Grant to help kickstart the group. In the documentary, we are told that it's street money. The music business is a business, and almost all businesses need some form of money to start producing, marketing, and selling the product. Like any business, those who infuse the company with startup capital are going to get favorable terms because they're taking on the most risk of anyone. The odds of these MCs from the projects becoming a profitable international hip-hop group is slim to none. Think about a scenario where you invest $50,000 into a local musician. Even though you never play an instrument, write a lyric, or sing a tune, if that artist makes it because...
Here's where I'm going to go ahead and make one comment that I've been holding back on. If individuals who made more than $1 million a year, hypothetically, hi Dolly, thank you. She hasn't done this for me. I'm just saying thank you because she has done this for other people. Because Billy Ray Cyrus wasn't able to get her the deal, get Miley the deal with Disney. It was Dolly who did. So, like, I'm just using this as an example. If millionaires and billionaires, instead of being selfish dragons, because that's what they are, if all the white middle-class Christian millionaires and billionaires decided to actually give some of their money to the poor, yeah, sure, they might not get a return in the investment, but they could help create the golden age of music. Because we are at the point where the technology exists for a golden age of musical creation. There just isn't enough money because it's all being kept at the top of the record labels. Or millionaires and billionaires aren't investing in musicians anymore. So, yeah. welcome to music business. Literally, the one thing it teaches you is we need communism, and anyone who's trying to be a venture capitalist in this industry is a fucking moron.
Because of your investment money, then you're going to want some profit. This is why you'll see names like Divine and Power of the Wu-Tang Clan get executive producer credits on an album that they never appeared on. Wu-Tang Productions Inc. was incorporated in the state of New York on August 4th, 1992 with Robert F. Diggs, aka RZA, as the managing agent. RZA was always one step ahead. He knew he had something special brewing with this group of MCs. RZA turns to an associate of the Wu-Tang, Mathematics, for help designing the logo. RZA pays Mathematics $400 for the logo, which was half of his rent at the time. Just imagine if Mathematics would have asked for 1% of all net income generated from use of his logo. The group has money, they have a logo for branding, they have their 8 original artists established, and RZA recruits his cousin John Mook Gibbons to become manager of the group. They're ready to record and open the world up to the skills of 8 MCs from Shaolin. What is this? A sample from a kung fu movie and a group of rappers from Shaolin? Protect Your Neck was the group's first single and let the world know in 5 minutes that these young rappers from Staten Island were the next big thing in music. While the group was working on recording other songs for their debut album, Mook went around marketing this single to anyone willing to listen. Through his creative guerrilla marketing techniques to generate underground buzz, Mook was able to get the song heard on the radio. Protect Your Neck features the 8 original Wu-Tang Clan members, but the 3 men behind the scenes were just as important to the group's beginning success: Divine and Power for the startup capital and Mook's ability to generate buzz and get the record played. Steve Rifkind of Loud Records took notice and made the smart decision to sign the Wu-Tang Clan to a record deal. The music industry is shady and full of stories where artists get taken advantage of, but labels still need to take a large financial risk that rarely pays off. The Wu-Tang Clan had 1 single, 8 artists, and didn't exactly make radio-friendly music. I don't have access to the original recording contract, but I imagine RZA received a larger share of royalties for his production on every song. My guess is the 8 members combined to earn 15 to 20% royalties. RZA has claimed that all of the artists receive an equal share of the royalties because they are a family, but there were many disputes between a group member and RZA, leading me to believe he kept his production credits. Within 2 years, Enter the Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers, had gone platinum, selling over 1 million copies. The reason why artists don't earn as much as you think is that 1 million copies sold means $10 million in revenue for the label. 15% royalties to the group would be $1.5 million. That gets split 11 ways. Assuming an uneven split, since the original investors would want a larger share and deductions for recording costs and marketing, each artist probably made around $50,000 total over 2 years, or $25,000 per year from royalties. The Wu-Tang Clan is one of the highest selling groups of all time and was able to tour the world for years, so I hope that none of the artists are struggling financially in 2021, but you can quickly see how much a group needs to sell or how much they need to make on tour in order to have an income that pays the bills. If the Wu-Tang Clan started today in an era where selling 10,000 albums the first week is the norm, they would really struggle to make ends meet. With the album experiencing some mainstream success, it was time for each individual artist to have their own solo career. RZA incorporated Wu-Tang Records on March 9th, 1995, establishing the company that will own all recordings for the Wu-Tang Clan. What RZA did differently was allow each individual member a chance to sign a solo recording deal with different labels. This allowed each member to pursue their solo careers separate from the group and separate from Loud Records. This also leads to obvious issues. Who gets to release first and enjoy the buzz generated from the Enter the Wu-Tang album? Also, RZA was the main producer on the first few albums released by Wu-Tang members, so it wasn't possible for every member to release a solo project right after the success of Enter the Wu-Tang. You God and Inspectah Deck's first albums were both released in 1999, 6 years after the first Wu album. The year is 1997. By now, Enter the Wu-Tang is certified platinum, selling over 1 million copies. Raekwon, GZA, Ghostface Killah, and ODB have certified gold albums, and Method Man has a certified platinum album. RZA is able to recruit the crew back together again to record the Wu-Tang Forever album. The album opened number 2 on the Billboard 200 chart, selling over 600,000 copies in the first week. The group was now a bona fide supergroup. Over the next 2 years, Raekwon released another gold album, Method Man another platinum album, Inspectah Deck and You God released their first solo albums to critical acclaim, and Capadonna went gold. Power started WooWare years earlier, but was now seeing gross sales hit multiple 8 figures per year. He also helped produce the Wu-Tang Shaolin style video game. The brand was everywhere mainstream, and the group even earned a tour with Rage Against the Machine, who was one of the largest rock bands touring at the time. The Wu-Tang Clan at this time was optimizing their brand recognition in every way possible. It's well known that artists now will struggle to make money if they're relying on album sales or streams only. The Wu-Tang Clan provided a pretty good blueprint for someone wanting to monetize the brand in many ways outside of the music. This also marked the peak of the Wu-Tang Clan. By now, multiple members were international stars on their own. Method Man was speaking negatively about WooWare and didn't know there was a Wu-Tang video game until asked in an interview about it. A couple artists were disgruntled that their solo projects dropped years after others. RZA had discontinued producing every track on Wu-Tang members' solo albums while pursuing his own solo career. ODB was facing personal demons and legal problems. Back to the summer of '97 in the tour with Rage Against the Machine. The peak of the invincibility of the group happened as the crew left the Rage tour to fulfill an obligation to perform at the Hot 97 Summer Jam concert. Hot 97 told the crew that they would no longer play their music on the radio if they didn't perform. The crew was forced to pay for their travel and accommodations to get back to New Jersey for the concert and wasn't paid for playing. Ghostface Killah went on stage and got the crowd to chant out F Hot 97, which resulted in the crew being kicked off stage and the radio station not playing their music for over a decade. Some crew members didn't want to return to the Rage tour. From the label's perspective, this would be the headaches of dealing with artists. They were given a great opportunity to promote their brand and make life-changing money on tour with Rage, and to ensure that they maintain a good relationship with Hot 97. But that's how the game is played. They ruined their relationship with Hot 97 and a chance of getting on the radio for promotion for over a decade. The group started to splinter around this time. Despite the complications the group was facing, they were able to release The W, their third album, which sold 300,000 copies in the first week, debuting at number 5 on the Billboard 200 chart in November 2000. Notably missing was ODB, who was only able to provide audio for one song that was sent via a prison telephone due to his incarceration. Just a couple years later, and following the release of their fourth album, the Wu-Tang Clan was facing a lot of internal struggle from artists becoming successful solo acts and not wanting to put their best effort into the Wu-Tang Clan albums. By this time, many of the artists had asked RZA to leave their recording deal with Wu-Tang. In the Of Mics and Men documentary, Divine said that all of the artists leaving their contract with Wu meant he was losing out on $10 million every single year. RZA wanted what was best for each artist and allowed it. I think a desire for an artist to become their own brand is inevitable in the music business, but it means splintering the group collective that existed for so long. Also in the documentary is an argument between Ghostface Killah, Raekwon, and Divine about management fees and money. Once artists see how many albums are getting sold, they see their merchandise all across the globe, and they see packed stadiums chanting their name, they're going to wonder where all of the money went. The label is always going to earn multiples more than artists, and Divine was always going to earn his fair share for being the initial investor and being the businessman behind the scenes. He was always going to earn a larger share than the artists. This uneven split of the money will inevitably lead to resentment in a group, and it happened with the Wu. ODB was released from prison and signed to Rockefeller Records, even though his cousins RZA and Divine helped make him into the artist he became. They had to sign on the dotted line to allow Dame Dash and The Rock to take control of his career. You can see it in RZA that he was destroyed by this. When ODB was released from jail, he had no money and needed money to pay for child support. He gladly accepted Rockefeller's advance to start recording under their label. It was pretty clear in the documentary that at this point the group was fractured to the point of no return. U-God left the group over feelings that the group favored other artists over himself. He eventually sued RZA over unpaid royalties. Ghostface Killah also sued RZA for unpaid royalties. 8 Diagrams, the group's 5th album, debuted at number 25 on the charts while selling only 68,000 copies in the first week, a far cry from the previous releases. Raekwon and Ghostface Killah were critical of the sound of the album, even trashing the album in public interviews. The album received fairly positive reviews, but it was clear that the group wasn't as tight-knit as they were in the beginning. Public arguments, lower album sales, and members suing and criticizing each other was a sign that the group was heading for the end. If you spend time analyzing the news stories of the Wu-Tang Clan and watching documentaries, it becomes clear that a lot of the disgruntled nature of the artists as time went on was due to many aspects of the music business. Divine, the businessman behind the operation, no longer speaks with the members, his brothers. The guys he grew up with and helped get out of the hood are no longer on speaking terms with him. RZA told his brother Divine to leave the group after there was a disagreement about him taking his management cut. RZA deserves a lot of credit for managing the crew the way he was able to. He produced entire albums, one after the other, to ensure the collective shared a similar sound for years. I think there will always be some resentment within the group towards RZA because he was always going to earn significantly more money than everyone else. He had producer credits on every song that each artist put out for years. He had producer credits on every Wu album. He also had writer credits, and he owned the company. He was the label. The major takeaway from the documentary that I had was that Divine was on a boat in Marina del Rey, California, talking about buying real estate in New York when the Wu-Tang Clan was receiving checks, and now those properties have gone up in value. Divine always had an investor's mind, which is why he invested his money and didn't spend it on conspicuous consumption. Once Upon a Time in Shaolin, the single copy album RZA produced with Silver Rings in 2015, helped bring to light the fractures in the group. You could hear it in the Wu-Tang members' voices when they speak about the album. Even through the trials and tribulations that the business side threw at the group, they have stuck together enough to continue touring nearly 30 years after their debut album was released. To me, there always feels like an element of what if with the group. I think they have the talent to become the biggest group in music. Thanks so much.
Well, I've been afraid of change.
Okay, so you may or may not have heard the flush. I was kind of shocked because I forgot to turn off the mic. The reason I forgot to turn off the mic was because my ulcer's back. I was having severe stomach pain issues all the last couple weeks, and yeah, no, just I saw something that was like, nope, nope, your ulcers are back, Tony. And it's like, okay, so I'm gonna call the doctor, get back on antibiotics and back on the prescription strength antacids, hopefully, before Dad gets home, because, yeah, I've been dealing with a lot of stress lately, and, I mean, I knew I shouldn't have been smoking. I was. I relapsed. Like, the stress got that bad. Like, thankfully, there is no nicotine around me anymore, and I can't get any right now. So it's like, okay, all right. So yeah, I have an ulcer, and it's bad. Um, but I know how to manage it. Doctors know how to manage it. So it's like, okay, I'll deal with my stress. I will deal with my anxiety. I need to get back to the production of my album as well, so that's part of the reason I'm going to be calling the stream here tonight. I'm probably not going to be streaming that much over the course of the next month. I have a lot of work to do, and not the fun kind of work, the kind that it's like, yeah, I need to work. Yeah, I need to work. It's not cool. Like, I've got one more single that's ready to release, but I haven't yet because I'm saving it for last because it's the best, because it's Love Letter to Nebula. But I have to finish writing and producing the other 15 singles that will be on the compilation album that's due out in May. And I have to write an additional 3 tracks bonus. So yeah, no,